out of here! I told you, Mr. Drama.
I used to be a ladies' man, but I'm unhappy now. For courting 6 girls all at once, they used me.
Say bye-bye, baseball!
My mother said it was naughty, I should kiss her back. But I said if it's naughty, sure it's also very
And the Lolly drops his glove, grabs Dalton. The benches are clearing.
Dust Up with Hilly and Lolly is brought to you by CoolBet. If you got a few extra bucks rattling around in your arse pocket, CoolBet Sportsbook will double your first deposit up to $200 when you use the bonus code DUSTUP. Head over to coolbet.com and get in on the fastest growing entertainment sector in the world. That bonus code again is DUSTUP, one word, all capital letters, DUSTUP. Well, welcome back, folks. Episode number 16 of Dust Up with Hilly and Lolly, and we got a special one today, Hilly. This is our 2021 year in review. We got 15 episodes in the bank. We're in that special time of year, and now we're going to look back on a bit of a best of. I'm excited about it, buddy.
Yeah, me too. It was a bit of a learning experience, bit of a learning curve, and bit of a whirlwind season, I guess. Is it a season? Is this season one?
Yeah, let's call it a season, right? Because we talked about this earlier about whether we were going to record a bunch and then put them out at once, like the boys do on Netflix, right? And all that, or if it was going to be kind of on an ad hoc basis. I'm glad we did it the way we did. And a learning experience. We're coming up almost on 1 year from that day that I sent that text message to you saying, I still got it in my phone. Hilly, we should do a podcast talking to the boys about all the antics and the stuff that we've been through. and here we are almost a year later with 15 episodes in the bank. And it's been a ride, man. I'm really glad we did it.
Yeah, I thought it was a joke at first. I said, here we go. Lolly's having a few beers again. He wants to do a podcast, right? Or he's been watching too much Spittin' Chicklets. But no, I'm glad you convinced me to do it. You put the bug in my ear, and now I got the itch, and still trying to figure it out a little bit, I guess. But you said, you got to start somewhere. Well,
and that'll be a theme as we go through. So this is going to be a special episode. We were very lucky to have the guests that we had come on. It was a full learning curve. We just threw ourselves into it and tried to get better each episode as we went along. And I'm proud of the ones that have been out there. We've been very, very lucky to have some great people in our corner. We'll get to all those. But what people can expect from this year in review episode, we are going to go back through and pick our favorite moments from the first 15 episodes. We got a few special guests that are going to come on here, and a couple of montages there that we think people might be interested in. But, buddy, it's been an awesome first season, first year, whatever you want to call it, a Dust Up with Hilly and Lolly. And let's get into the 2021 year in review. All right, Hilly, here we go. We'll call it segment 1 of the year in review. We're going to go through the first 15 episodes. We're going to pick out our favorite moment, and there's been a lot of favorite moments for me. We're going to pick one just in the essence of time, and we get a few other special montages, as we said, coming through. But before we get in the first clip, we will go in chronological order from episode 1 through episode 15. And I talked about it on the last episode where I kind of feel bad for Robbie O'Brien and Rob Gray, two of our good buddies that came on, gave us a shot in the early days, and they knew we didn't have a clue how to run a friggin' podcast, but they came on. We couldn't think of two better guests, but we had Robbie O'Brien on as guest number 1 way back when, April, I think. We recorded it in February of 2020, and one of our best buddies stood with you in my wedding, and just what a great guest to kick off the very first episode of Dust Up with Hilly and Lolly. But what do you remember from that very first episode?
Well, I'll just start fresh again. What you said, we weren't quite sure we had a clue what we're doing. I don't know if we still have a clue what we're doing, but not only did we have a Hall of Famer and a future Hall of Famer going the first 2 episodes, I think they were strategically picked as well because they are very good buddies.
That's right. Yeah.
And if we weren't very good, your buddies have a certain way to tell you that you weren't very good, and it's not going to, like a stranger to tell you, like, I will never do that again. So it's two strategic picks here, but man, we had a lot of great laughs with Obi, and it was great to catch up with them. And we had some, we chatted about Denny Bruckert, and we chatted about Team Canada World Juniors and playing ball in Newfoundland. There were so many stories, but what sticks out to you the most? What was your favorite?
Well, Robbie's one of my best friends, right? He's like an older brother to me. So there's a lot of those stories that are personal. They're just not just like, hey, tell us about an experience. A lot of them I went through with him, but there's a couple of funny ones, and we'll get to. Robbie's going to show up a couple of times throughout this, so I won't let too much away, but just how he kind of was one of those trailblazers that we talked about, who left Newfoundland. He was really instrumental when we made the jump to the ISC, taking us under his wing. The guy took me into his friggin' house, right? And there's a lot of stories that came from that. But How about this? Let's bring Robbie O'Brien on with us and get his take on his episode, the podcast to date. And Robbie, what's happening?
Hey, fellas. Hey, guys. Hey. Thanks for having me back, fellas. Hey, it's good to seeing you guys again. Good talking to you again.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, you're episode 1, buddy. Now we're 15 episodes in. I talked about it on the End of Wolfie's podcast, where we kind of felt bad that you came in and we weren't as comfortable doing the podcast as we are now. Didn't really have a sense of the flow and what a finished product could look like by the time we got you on to press record. But we couldn't have picked a better guy. We had a ton of positive feedback about your episode, but what do you remember about when we first got on the Zoom back, I don't know, 8 or 10 months ago now, and you're looking at two of us sitting across trying to do a podcast?
Well, it was raw. I got to say, like when we first started, three of us, no fucking idea what was going to happen. And I think that was the best part of it, though. Like you guys were so green to it. I had no idea what you guys were even trying to do. And it turned out it was just natural, to be honest. Like we talked, it was like three of us sitting down talking, like we're at a kitchen table, having a few beers, shooting shit, talking about whatever. And I think that was the best part of it. It was just so raw, so natural that we didn't have to make up any stories, or none of the stuff was false, or it just rolled off our tongues. And it was a lot of fun, I got to say. And since number 1 episode to your number 15, it was actually pretty cool, man, to hear what you guys are doing and how you've evolved from, again, episode 1 till now. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, it was like you said, it was just like we're sitting in the beer tent, having a beer, chatting with the boys. We touched on everything from your favorite softball moments to a couple jokes to what Robbie's favorite kind of jeans were to wear.
Well, and here we go. So, without further ado, Rob, what we've selected as our favorite moment from your episode, we've heard a lot of feedback and laughs about it. When I was living with you in 2006, you took me in, just like you had the young Steve Mullally podcast host on episode 1. You had young Steve Mullally, the softball player, moving into your house. And that came with a little bit of naivete, I think is the word that you would call. And you used that to prank me a few times. But anyway.
Well, that wasn't too hard, I guess. But,
no, but we had a story about the guest jeans. And let's roll into that, fellas.
Oh, Lolly, there's a few stories.
Yeah.
There's nothing, I don't know. We touched on it, Lolly. Remember, I came home with these pants one time, Hilly. And Lolly goes to me, he goes, hey, what kind of pants are these? I said, guess. And he goes, I don't know, Old Navy. I was there, no, like guess. And he goes, what, Diesel? I was there, no, fucking guess. And he goes, I'm sick of playing this game. Just tell me what they are. I'm thinking, holy fuck, man, they're fucking Guess jeans. Like just read them. Yeah, oh man.
Man, I'm used to going to friggin' Blue Notes or American Eagle. That's where I
Piper's back home. Piper's.
Yeah,
that's where you
where we went to get our jeans. Oh man, I was so frustrated when I was dead serious too. But there's no man. That's looking back now. Some of the times in that house, man, some of the best times of my life.
And there it is, fellas. 2006, Steve Mullally and Robbie O'Brien. I don't know if I'm any wiser these days, Robbie, but I know what guest jeans are anyway. So there we go.
You got a closet full of them now. You got a closet full of everything.
Yeah. But, buddy, we wouldn't be in the position that we are now with the podcast if you hadn't agreed to come on, be patient with us. You're one of our best buddies. Been through the war and back with you. We love you. Thanks for doing this with us. Can't wait to see you again. And Merry Christmas, buddy.
You too, guys. Hey, love you both. And thanks for everything, fellas. And again, it's a pleasure being number one with you. And congratulations and for going. I hope you get to 100, right? Or go to 1,000, whatever you can, and keep this thing going. It's a lot of fun. And you don't know how many people I've had come in my restaurant and just pump your guys' tires with this. Like there's people who listen to this that I had no idea who listened to it. And you'd be shocked too. Like it's going to be big for you guys. Congratulations again, fellas. Have a great Christmas.
Do we have an item on the menu named after us yet? Or?
Yeah, called bologna.
It's the mixed mash, but you taste good. There we go.
Yeah.
Awesome, buddy.
All right, Obi. Thanks a lot, buddy.
All right, fellas. Take care.
Well, Hilly, what can we say? We couldn't ask for a better guest than Robbie O'Brien, better guy to have on. And I'm sure, as our listeners know, he's one of the best in the game for a reason. And we're going to have him back on at some point here in 2022 and have a little bit more fun with him. Now we move on. Episode 2 with one of our, again, another one of our great buddies in the game, your teammate with the farm for those years, one of the best clutch hitters, all-around students of the game, great teammate in Rob Gray.
Yeah, fellow farmer, Robbie Gray, Hall of Famer. Man, we had a great chat, and it was we had a lot of laughs, that was for sure. But Robbie had some good insights, and we got into some serious talk, and he got pretty in depth there.
He did.
we had some deep thoughts there about some certain topics. But one thing that comes to mind was when he talked about a conversation he had with Rob Peterson in a hotel room, or I think it was a hotel, maybe it was a bit, wherever it was, doesn't matter. And he asked him about what made a successful season.
Yeah,
right.
That's something that stood out with me when I look back on 15 episodes. There's certain things that stand out in these. There's a lot of funny moments. There's some really high level on-field moments, and then there's some really insightful things that you just stick with you. And for me, this was one, and I believe it was in a truck, actually, Hilly, that he was talking to Rob Peterson, and it was just on the tail end of a bad tournament. Things weren't going great. Rod wasn't in a good mood, let's put it that way. And I think we've fallen guilty to this, to put all the emphasis on the ring tournaments. And as long as you're ready to play and you show up for the ISCs and the ASAs, that's all that matters. But it was pretty cool to see the perspective from Robbie Gray that he found from one of the legendary sponsors and coaches, that what constitutes a successful season.
Like he was just nonstop fun, drinking beer, doing, once again, like we talked about, doing what we like to do. And I mean, among several of my conversations with him, one year, Hilly, you were there too. You weren't at the conversation. I think we were sitting in his truck drinking beer. And I don't remember what year it was, but
it's probably there.
But we started the season, we would score 5 runs or 6 runs in the first inning, and we'd end up losing 8-7. Rod and I were sitting in the truck, and he said, "This is miserable. Like this season is miserable." And I'm like, "Well, Rod, like the remember the ISC," and he says, "Brownie, do you think it's a successful season if we play like this all the way till, say, the ASA and the ISC, and then we win both of those tournaments? Do you think that's a successful season?" And I said, "Well, sure, we come out with 2 championships." And he said, "It is not a successful season. I would rather compete every weekend and lose in the ASA and lose in the ISC, competing. So playing well but getting beat, than doing what we're doing now." And a lot of us players, I think, had that mindset of, okay, the whole season is just a build up to the big tournaments. ASA, ISC, Canadian. Although Canadian was, to us anyway, was kind of like party time, right?
There's something about that Eau Claire Classic. That was like Rod's favorite.
Yes.
Right? He loved that tournament.
He loved that tournament. Yep. Yeah, almost more than the ISC. I don't know what he had. Like he had friends there, but it did mean a lot to him. And I always thought his mindset was so different than all of us players' mindset, because I don't know if you guys are the same now. I mean, everything was a buildup. Like the whole goal was to get to the ISC and be at the top of your game and then go win that tournament. And that conversation was so interesting to me from him, that, he wanted to, his whole thing in the game was to compete. I'm sure he wanted to win the ISC and the ASA and all those things, but it was more important for him to compete weekend in, weekend out.
Hilly, I love that clip, man. It's really insightful because, as we said, we're so focused on playing the big tournaments. It just gave a different perspective and almost changed the way you approach going into an ISC season, knowing that there's a lot of things go into giving us the opportunity to play week in and week out and at this level. And there's sponsors, there's coaches, there's money put into this. And when you look at a season overall, it's not just the end of it. You got to come ready to play every week.
Yeah. It really puts things in perspective. Like these sponsors, especially the sponsors of these big teams, which are few and far between this day and age, they put a lot of time and a lot of effort, a lot of resources into putting a team together just because they love the game. They love the game. They love being around the fellas. They love to travel, but they love to win. When you're putting on their jersey, you're not only representing the community where they're from or the town that they're from, but you're also representing them.
Exactly.
It's them, those guys who are putting those jerseys on you and getting you in that lineup. So whether it's, of course, ASAs, ISCs, they're the big ones we want to win, but like the little ones, the Tavistock, the Boys of Summer, Elkland, Erie, they want to win those just as bad.
Yeah.
Right. And as we heard from Robbie, Rod Peterson was certainly one of those guys. And, we could win the ASAs and lose the previous 4 tournaments. That's not a successful season in his eyes. Right. So it really puts things in perspective.
Yeah. And we hope that the young players that are on their way up and about to make their mark in ISC or currently navigating their way through it, take that to heart, because it's a really important message from one of the best. But now, Hilly, we get to move on to one of our good buddies, and I would consider a mentor in the podcast front. We know him as our buddy Chris Abbott from Newfoundland that we played ball with all the way up through. But in the softball community, he is one of the voices of men's fast pitch across the globe. And from a broadcast perspective, he was one of our first calls and say, Abby, do you have any advice on how we can approach recording a podcast for fast pitch softball? And he's been so generous to us with his knowledge and his time and everything else. How lucky were we to have Chris Abbott in our corner?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we were very green going into this. We didn't have much of a clue about podcasting or what we were supposed to do. But, we talk about Chris Abbott. I grew up with Chris Abbott. He emceed my wedding. I played ball with Chris Abbott, and now he announces softball tournaments that we play in. So, but the other side is that he does podcasts for a living. You hear him on Ray and Dregs and some other big time podcasts, right? So for two fellas who are trying to have a laugh and don't know what they're doing, why not get this guy in? He's our buddy again, right? He's gonna let us down easy.
He did. And then the good thing is he came in. So when we talked about Robbie O'Brien and Rob Gray not wanting to get them in early or feeling bad about getting them in early, getting Chris Abbott in on episode 3 made every episode after that, in my opinion, made us a little bit better. And but a lot of great feedback from his episode, right? He has a pretty cool story about how he went from small town Newfoundland to where he is right now. It's incredible. Yeah. No, I was like, I remember the first phone call. He called me after we recorded a couple of days later, and I was nervous. it was like when I'm walking back to the bench after I missed a bunt sign, right? I was nervous. The palms are sweaty, and I was like, okay, here we go. He's going to tell us now exactly
how shit you were and what happened and this
It's
and
like
that.
getting your homework checked almost, right?
Yes, man. Yes.
But
But no, it's good. Some pointers here and there and all that stuff helps again.
And then we got him back on to co-host our 10th episode. And just throughout, he's been a great friend, mentor, resource to us. And we actually got him on. He's going to come and jump on with us right now. So let's bring in Abby, have a chat, talk a little bit about what his thoughts on the podcast are. And we got a few cool things coming up in the new year with Chris Abbott. So here he is.
Abby, what's up, brother?
How's it going, fellas? Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, Lolly, we live down the street from each other. I've still been threatening to make that visit. And Hilly, now I am down the street from you, and I still haven't come see you yet. This is ridiculous.
You're in Newfoundland, buddy. You're one of the luckiest people in Canada right now. You made it back to Newfoundland for Christmas with the family. I'm so happy for you, buddy.
Not only did I make it, I slid in like Alexander Ovechkin under that closing door in the cart there that time before they dropped the quarantine on people. Yeah. So yeah, I made it in before they dropped the quarantine down. I mean, we don't have time or nobody wants to hear about all that stuff. But yeah, I'm here. I'm here till the end of the year, and it's good. It's good to be home.
Well, that's awesome, buddy. Well, we're going through a year in review. As you know, we got 15 episodes of the podcast out right now. You were on episode 3. You've been kind of in our corner in the back throughout this whole thing, giving us your advice from a broadcast front, a whole bunch of support coming from the Chris Abbott camp to us. But we're going through our favorite moments from our episodes 1 through 15, and we wanted to get you on here. But before we go into the clip from your episode, what's your take on the podcast, knowing that you were an early guest, but we know you've been following along from episode 1 to 15. What's your take on it?
Well, I think it's great. I mean, I think it's a lot like, when we do the broadcasts on the ISC network or WBSC stuff. It's an opportunity to bring people closer to the game, and I think that's what you guys are doing. A lot of fans out there watch and see the players, but maybe don't get to interact with them. Certainly don't get to sit down and shoot the shit with them for an hour like you guys do. So I think that's my favorite part of it. That stood out the most. There's a couple of things. The Dale Levy show I thought was great. I didn't realize either how long he played and how his career spanned so many kind of like generations of the game. And I think something that really stood out to me, I'll put the Robbie O'Brien and Blair Eskel episodes together. Those are a couple of guys who around the ballpark, they're just so dialed in, right? And you see them on the field and maybe they got a scowl on their face and maybe they don't come across as like the nicest guys sometimes. Right? But I thought once you guys sat down and peeled it back a little bit, and I mean, I've played against Blair my whole life, but it's always been adversarial. And I know we get along or whatever away from the field, but I thought it was really neat just to see those guys away from the park, even out of season, just being human. I thought that was really great for me.
Yeah. So I guess, part of our inspiration or motivation, I guess, for doing this podcast was that we felt like there's so many stories and stuff that nobody has any idea about, like, from not just on the ball field, and not just in the beer tent, but like back at the hotel and the travel in and the growing up, learning how to play the game and people's heroes and stuff, just stories that need to be told, and we wanted to bring that to light to people and try to promote the game at the same time. And which I thought was pretty cool to get you on, because there was a part of the game which I didn't know much about, which that was, the perspective from up in the booth. You as an announcer and a broadcaster, and you guys are watching all the games and you're doing your homework and the stats and who's hot and who's not. And I thought it was pretty cool to get some insights of what you guys, how you guys view us from up in the booth.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a unique perspective. And just before we go on to that, I just want to say, like, I don't know Rob O'Brien. Like, never. I might have met the guy once, and he was just always like an imposing figure at the ballpark. And then I'd say Blair, the opposite. I played against him about 1,000 times in my life, but so we, a small relationship there. But when you you see those guys just step back from it, and such fierce competitors, so good at what they do and so dialed in. And when you don't know them on a personal level, I just really love what you guys are able to do there. And I think for us, as broadcasters, it's kind of the same thing, like coming from Canada and growing up, and especially I'll use the New Zealand guys as an example. And I know you guys are still in it as players, So you may not have the same perspective, but it's almost like growing up in Canada, you see the Russian hockey players, like you respect them. There's a healthy fear because if you're not on your game, then they'll beat you by 10. And then sometimes the individuals get lumped in with uniform. And I think it's really good to separate those away from the field of play. And I think in the age that we live in today, that's super important, to really get to know the individual. I think back to when, like before the internet, right? So before you guys could have your game streamed, like you talked about on a couple of broadcasts, like you can dig out the old footage from years ago, but it was never live. I think back to the days of like when we were kids and we were watching the World Junior Championship. And I remember the year it was Jerome McGinley played, Matt Dominicelli. You don't know anything about these other teams. They're a flag. They're a uniform. And you're just like, you're nervous, you're scared. They're like larger than life. So that's kind of how I view just kind of this progression in terms of sports media and by extension, what you guys are doing with podcasting.
Yeah. Well, when we get to bring on the guys from here, and what's funny to me is when you hosted our 10th episode, you put us to shame on any sort of intro into an episode that we could do. But when you say, and here we go, they've had guests on from Newfoundland and Ontario, Australia, and Newfoundland. So I just want to talk about, we do have friends in the game that are not from Newfoundland or Ontario or from Australia, and we will be bringing them on in the new year. But it was awesome when I think back on this year, and wanted to get you on here tonight. First of all, to say thank you for coming on as a guest, for all the advice that you've given us in the background, for co-hosting the episode number 10. We got a couple of exciting things coming up with Chris Abbott shortly in the new year. But before we do that, we want to go into our favorite moment from your episode number 3, probably the portion of our podcast that we get the most positive feedback on. And that is how you got and started your journey to becoming one of the voices of the ISC. And it was a really special clip with a great message. And let's hear it.
You have a very unique and incredible story yourself, but how did you get into broadcasting in general, and how did you get to where you are right now within the men's fast pitch softball, and also the things that you're doing on the hockey front?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a crazy story, and when I stop to think about it, sometimes I just kind of shake my head. So I went to university in the early 2000s. It took me 7 years to do a 4-year business degree.
Congrats, doctor.
I wasn't really interested in school, and I didn't know what I wanted to do after school. I knew I enjoyed sports, and I knew I enjoyed hockey and softball, and those were the things that made me feel alive, and those were the things that I love to do. Of course, you can't get paid to do those things professionally for the most part. Especially in St. John's, I wasn't going to get paid, $100,000 a year to coach a hockey team or to, at that point, I wasn't doing any broadcasting. So in early 2014, I was probably at the low point of my life, and things were not going well for me. And I didn't really have a plan or a future, or didn't know what I was going to do. So I had started doing just some, again, because I was around the sports and I enjoyed them, I had started doing some just kind of fun broadcast, color commentary stuff on streams of like minor hockey tournaments or whatever I could do, because I absolutely loved it. That was something that made me feel excited. Like I loved getting behind the microphone and talking about the game. And I was always a captain. I was always a coach. I felt like, even though physically I wasn't able to play at the level where I probably could have eventually, my mind knew the game and saw the game and read the game very well. So I started doing some kind of freelance broadcast gigs, and people liked me. And I did the World Ball Hockey Championships in St. John's on just like, the local Bell free stream, and got some good response out of that. And And then more opportunities came. People were like, well, hey, do you want to do this? There's a guy in St. John's. His name is Tristram Clark, and he runs a video production company. And he had the contract with Bell, and he and I got along well. And he liked that I was dependable more than anything. If he called me, I'd show up. And he kept giving me gigs, and it went from the minor hockey stuff to the ball hockey, and then we did. We did the Newfoundland Rock Rugby. We did AUS championships because Bell had the contract there. So the Atlantic University Sports Swimming and soccer, and just kind of kept building and building. And then finally, he goes, "We've got the 2014 baseball nationals, and they were in St. John's." He's like, "Do you want to do it?" And I was like, "Yes. These are the sports that I love. Like I can do swimming, but I don't know what the hell is going on. I don't know a breaststroke from breast meat at Mary Brown's. I don't know the difference."
And it must be exciting to do a soccer game too. Like Jesus, and the grass grew another millimeter.
Yeah. Then they started playing on synthetic turf, and I didn't even have that. So while we're lining up and getting ready to do the baseball, he goes, "Now in Charlottetown, they've got the senior men's fast pitch, and we don't have anyone in Atlantic Canada who knows the game, but I guess you do." Yep. So I called the championship game of the Canadian Senior Baseball Championship at St. Pat's in St. John's, went to the airport, flew to Halifax, drove to Charlottetown, and did the 2014 tournament. The two Newfoundland teams met in the final, and I was on the microphone for that, which is very, very cool. Yeah. A lot of fortunate things happened that weekend, but I also got myself in hot water too, because I learned quickly that week that a lot of people are listening. So when I first started, I was tough on umpires, man. I was really tough, and I because I hate umpires and referees. I hate them. For the most part, good people, but I when they're not doing a good job, it drives me absolutely crazy. Right. But there's a lot of good umpires out there, and I've grown up in that regard too, much like I'm sure all of us have. Yeah. They're just out there doing their best.
Well, you and I have. Hilly is still, when it comes to the umpires, man, he's still a crapshoot when it comes to you, Hilly.
I'm still pitching here, so cut me some slack.
Yeah. So anyway, make a long story short, that was my first real experience to the softball community. And, as you guys know, got really good feedback. And I have to, especially you, Steve, I remember you saying to me right away, I got to put you in touch with Blair Setford. And I didn't know Blair at the time at all. I had heard his voice, and even something as simple as that, having watched the ISC streams, thinking, wow, that would be totally cool to do, was still a world away from me. So I think it was 2 years later that the ISC tournament was in Quad Cities in 2016. And Kyle Smith, I don't know if Kyle had started a new job or he just had a baby or whatever it was. I don't remember, but he couldn't make it. So it was just going to be Blair and Joe Todd and Lance Wynn heading to do the entire tournament. They needed another guy. So Blair called me up and again, not a big budget thing, but he's like, "I'll get you there. I'll feed you and we'll get you drinks and we'll figure it out." And that was good enough for me. Like, I think that year too, it had become like a scaled down version. There's a problem with the production company and blah, 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 sponsorship and the whole 9 yards. So that was my first experience with it in 2016. At that level, working with those guys and kind of learning to see how they do stuff from the ballpark broadcasting, the ISC broadcast realm. And yeah, it was great. And then of course, so my first gig, I go and the two Newfoundland teams play in the final, and you guys win in Charlottetown, and that's all well and good. And then I go to that tournament, and another Newfoundlander and Shane Boland hits a walk-off home run for the Gators to win. And I know you guys probably don't want to talk about that. Go. Yeah. But it's so great for Shane and to be there for that moment. And I really do think that what's happened over the years is that so many of the guys from home have been key contributors in all of these games, and the fact that I know them and their families, that's helped me bringing the listener or the viewer closer to the game. And I think just because they're in such prominent roles and I can have a little story to share, or I have that just connection, I think that's helped as well. And then, so I'm sitting in in that little tower there in Quad Cities in the middle of the fields. And I get a message from Jim Flanagan with Ballpark Broadcasting. And he said, "Chris, you were great. I see a white horse galloping in your future," was the line he wrote to me. Or galloping into your future.
Yeah.
And then so from there, then it kind of rolled from there. I went to Whitehorse to do the WBSC men's, following year in Prince Albert for the junior men's. Then, getting to go to Prague, which is a city I absolutely fell in love with in 2019. And then we got home from there and they asked us to go to Irvine, California to do the, women's junior worlds or under 19, whatever it was called at the time. So, last year was the first year I didn't get to see parts of the world that I've never seen before because of softball broadcasting. And I look forward to doing it again when the time comes. But it's been quite a wild ride. And much like my entire life, it was kind of a right place, right time. And somebody took a chance to me and somebody liked what I did. I guess it goes back to taking a little bit of a risk every now and again, and sometimes it pays off.
I love that clip, fellas, and I know why we've gotten so much positive feedback about it. It's a great story. It encompasses everything that's great about our sport. But Abby, there's a lot of talk about softball players in Newfoundland and what the players in Newfoundland have done over the last number of years. But what you've done on the broadcast front and going from Newfoundland to now being the voice of these championship games and international events, it's a story that needs to be told, very inspirational, and one of my favorite moments from the podcast so far.
I honestly, I don't know how to respond to that. First of all, it's total group effort. There's 6 or 8 of us now that are at every event, and I'm just part of a bigger machine there. So it's that's just a blessing to be able to do that. But I guess when you talk about just kind of grinding your way through, and I think we talked about it on the episode. I think it's just a metaphor for life, and that's just been my life. Like you're going to have high points, you're going to have low points, you're going to have times where you need to figure out what you're going to do next. It's not ever as simple as you come out of high school, you do a degree, and you work in a career for the 4 years you went to school, whatever degree you did. I think very few people out there have that story. So I think it's very much about adapting to your surroundings, making decisions when you come to crucial forks in the road about how you're going to handle something. And I don't think there's anything special about the way that I kind of handle it. It's worked out very well. But I think it's just I think there's a lot of people out there who get faced with adversity all the time, get faced with a choice. Maybe they have to pivot from what the path they thought their life was going to be going on. And then you kind of work on it. You guys have both done it yourselves. So I don't, I'm glad that it resonates though. I am.
Yeah, man, it's certainly a great story, and there's certainly some life lessons in there, and really glad you shared that with us. And it was an awesome journey, man. I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah, it's excellent, buddy. But we got a few things planned early in the new year with Chris Savas. So not only as a guest with those great stories, you hosted our 10th episode, as we mentioned. That was awesome. We have plans to have you on plenty of times moving forward, hopefully. But I guess we can let the cat out of the bag right now. So this is our last episode of 2021. Our first episode of 2022, we are going to be bringing on John Hill, Jason Hill's father, coach of Hill United, coach of Team Canada, one of the legends of Newfoundland softball, is going to come on as our very first guest. And Abby, you're going to come on and co-host that episode with us. I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to that. So just a quick preview. Where's your head at knowing that we're going to be recording that episode in a couple of weeks?
Where's my head at? My head is at how difficult I'm going to make that hour on John. That's where my head's at. Am I gonna hit him with the cupcake questions that everybody can guess what he's going to respond to, or am I going to pin him against the wall and ask him some hard hitting questions? We'll figure it out.
Well, stay tuned, folks. We got a banger of an episode to start off 2022. Abby, thank you so much for everything you did with us with the podcast in 2021. Can't wait to get you back on here in a couple of weeks. And Merry Christmas, buddy.
Same to you guys. It's been an absolute pleasure to watch you grow from your maiden broadcast to what you've been able to put together in just a few months. So you talk about getting better at something and grinding something out and finding your way. You guys have done that with the podcast. Can't wait to hear what's next.
Thanks, Abby, man. Good to see you, buddy, and we'll catch up over the holidays.
So rolling right along, Hilly, but before we get into the next episode in our favorite clip, got a little bit of fan feedback that I'd like to share. So just going to go through a couple. We're getting some positive feedback, some constructive feedback, all that stuff. So here's the first one. Really love the podcast, honey. Keep it up. See you at supper. Bride Hill. Did you see? Perfect. That is excellent.
Thanks. Hey, your number one fan is your mom.
That's right. God love her. God love her. Now I got another one here. Can you please keep the friggin' noise down? Teddy can hear you through the roof. Okay, that's constructive feedback from Jane. That's all right. And, we take the constructive feedback on this podcast, Hilly, and we'll keep her down.
That's right. That's how you learn.
That's how you learn. Hilly, I'm really loving this year in review episode. We're getting to catch up with a couple of the guys that have been on here with us earlier, looking back on some of the funny moments, our favorite moments, and it's awesome. And now we get to look at episode number 4 with Ian Fairman. And what can we say about Opie? One of our favorite teammates, one of the most intense ball players you ever play with or against, but you can't pick a better guy in the sport to sit down and have a beer with.
One of our favorite guys to see strike out.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he takes the cake for favorite people to see strike out. But that was a great episode, man.
It was. Yeah, well, great for you and him. You guys talking about getting keys to the city. There's fields being named after you, parades.
Well, now, listen, we got to lobby St. John's, Newfoundland to name something after Hilly. Maybe I don't know. There's a few things named after you, whether you want them or not. But that's very timely because our favorite moment from Ian Fairman's episode is when he talked about getting that honor in his hometown of having the field named after him. It was a very special moment, and no one deserved it more than Ian Opie Fairman.
Yeah, let's roll it.
We got the chance to win the WBSC at home and then the Pan Am Games. And it was pretty cool to see what they did for you in your hometown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. No, my parents have been involved with the Lions Club for their life here in Townsend, and they've done a lot for the community and stuff. And one of the ball diamonds here in town, ball diamond I grew up playing with or whatever, they decided that they were going to rename that ball diamond in my honor. And yeah, it was super special, really cool. So we had a day where we got to, bring out all my old friends and family, and everybody came out, and we had the big unveiling, and it was a super special day for sure.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, well, it's well deserved. No one deserves it better, man. And it's a great tribute. It's a beautiful sign that they put up by the field too. We pulled it up here, and that Lucas is just bringing it up there. I think you can see it on the screen. It's great for small town anyway, but you know how it's a softball area that you grew up in, right? Similar to us in Newfoundland, and it's you're a role model not only for your own kids but from the kids that are growing up there, and no one deserves it more, man. And we're thrilled to see you get that honor, and I'm really proud to look at that sign when we're out there.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and it's funny when we were out to Jason and Marsha's wedding there a few years back, and we got a chance to go to Freshwater. Yeah. And we had dinner with your parents and your grandparents, and just an awesome experience. But like we were you took us for a little tour around Freshwater out there, and we were talking, and our childhoods are pretty much the same, right? It was just small town, ball diamond, and hockey in the summer and hockey in the winter, ball in the summer, and home run derbies and playing pickle with your buddies, and it was the same thing, right? It's the same childhood, and it was awesome. It was just it was really good.
Yeah, very lucky.
You should have stopped by the old pitch and putt there on Torbay Road when the club. Might see a picture of Hilly in there in the old hole.
Oh yes, bye. You're a golfer now, are you? Oh, Jesus.
He's back again.
Oh, he's back.
Well, you guys are talking about fields getting named after you and presidents coming to meet you and call you. And
that's all right, Hilly. They got a beer cooler down in Marie's Mini Mart named after you. Well, see, Hilly, you do have something named after you. Just down the street, Marie's Mini Mart got a beer cooler named after you, right?
Yes, yeah, that's Signal Hill.
That's it. Drop down to the pitch and putt by and try and get another hole in one. You'll be fine. But here we go, moving right along. Episode number 5, we had one of our great mentors in the game, one of the best catchers to ever do it, Sean O'Brien, come on. That was an episode full of a ton of laughs. You can see the character, leader, the charisma that he had. You can tell why so many people in the game respect him, consider him one of the best teammates, but also one of the best catchers to ever play the game.
Yeah, my old battery mate there in PEI for 2 innings.
Here we go. And I think he said he only caught a couple of balls that you threw to him, and the rest were going over the fence. But he's a beauty. But there's a lot of things that stood out to me about his episode. But the one in particular, and I think we both agree that this was our favorite moment, was when he reflected on the 2010 ISC Championship game. And that's when he was catching for Andrew Phibbs, facing the Kitchener Twins, having to go in and pitch against Patty Shannon and some of the best hitters in the world. And it was pretty cool to see how he navigated that whole situation from behind the dish.
Yeah, I absolutely love getting the perspective from the catchers, the elite catchers in our game, because they're the ones calling the shots. They're the ones who know all the hitters, and they know you, they know me, right? And it's I'm very interested, always interested to pick their brains and see what they got to say,
Yeah, and this was a really big moment in the history of the ISC, and it's great to hear from his perspective. And without further ado, Sean O'Brien, 2010 ISC Championship game. Well, you mentioned some pressure situations and some of the young guys you got to catch. And we're going to dive into 2010 that year. It was special for you for a number of reasons on the ISC front. That's when you won with your brother, Robbie. You guys got to share that moment. But that championship game, and a couple of moments in particular in that championship game where, if I remember it right, tight game, you guys are playing against Kitchener. You're playing with Jarvis. And I'm not sure who was on the mound. You can fill us in. But there's a pitching change or someone got hurt, and Andrew Phibbs came into the game in a huge pressure situation. And I'm sure in his mind, he probably wasn't banking on being in the circle for that game. But there's a legendary story about how you handled that moment. And can you walk our listeners through that from your perspective?
Well, first of all, it was a treat to that year because I got to play with Robbie. And like you say, our dream as kids was to always, we want to win something together, win a Canadians, let's step off some, win a Canadians together. And it's like, let's go win the world. So when it was all said and done, 2010, I guess LG and a few other people decided to want to put a team together and say, okay, Robbie, this is our last shot at it, man. Let's give her. So that final day in Midland, Michigan, we had, we unfortunately took the back roads to win. You had to win 3 on the last day. We won a 9-inning game in the morning. We won a 8-inning game in the afternoon, and then we had to play that night or something crazy like that. Like, we were just exhausted back. So poor old Adam Folkart was throwing for us, and Adam's arm was falling off. Like, he threw blinders. He's a horse. He's going to give you what he got. Then we brought in Ichi, and Ichi started, giving us everything he possibly had, and he got hurt. So finally, we're in a situation where we're playing Kitchener. Bases are loaded. 5th inning, we're up by 1, and then we have Phibbsy down warming up for Andrew Phibbs, and never threw a ball the whole week besides on the sidelines. And I'm like, I've never caught for the kid, so I'm like, okay, this should be interesting, besides on the sidelines and stuff. Let's see where this is going to go. So anyway, Coos comes out, Steve Cooser, and pulls him out. He comes out and says, all right, Fibs, you're coming in. As he's walking in, I'm standing with Rona there at the mountain. You could see almost fear. The poor kid, he's sweating. He's almost shitting his pants. He's white. And he's like, holy fuck, I'm coming. I got to face Patty Shannon and Jody Ike with the bases loaded in the championship game and haven't thrown the ball all week.
Wow.
So anyway, he walks in, we goes back, and we do our warm-ups, and I walks out after his warm-ups, and everybody's getting in the groove and all that stuff, and Fibs, he's just waiting. I said, all right, pal, here's the deal. As you got Patty Shannon coming up with bases loaded, I said, make him hit the ball. And he's looking at me like I got 10 fucking heads. Says, what did you say? I said, Patty Shannon. I said, make him hit the ball. Make him get himself out. He's like, you're telling me to make Patty Shannon hit the ball. And Patty didn't no trouble hitting the ball any other time. I said, bud, trust me on this. Make Patty hit the ball. Make him get himself out. So I'm looking at Rona. Rona scratches his head too. So he said, I don't know what's going on in your crazy head of yours, but he said, fuck, it might work. He said, by the way, it will be high dippers if you can. And lucky enough for me, that's what Fibs he got. So I go back, throw down fucking high dipper inside, strike one. High dipper inside, strike through. High dipper, same pitch inside, strike three, strikes Patty out.
Wow.
Well, fucking Fibs, he thought he won the fucking world championship. Then like, holy fuck, I know he found a rhythm.
Yeah.
And Eider comes up, all right, same thing. Give Eider, because he stepped in the bucket, an outside drop ball. He pops it up to Opie on shortstop. Get out of the inning. Walk in the dugout, and Fibsy comes to me and says, holy fuck, Opie. He said, what were you thinking there and all? I said, Fibsy, here's the deal. I go out there and tell you, bases loaded, fucking one out, Patty Shannon coming up, you got to strike him out. What's going through your mind? Well, I'd be shitting my pants even worse. He's fucking nodding more pressure. Yeah, you're squeezing the ball. You're doing whatever you got to do. Make him get himself out. We're not going to walk him. Just make him hit the ball. Trust your fielders. Trust he's going to get a ground ball or a pop. I mean, he hits it every yard. He hits it every yard. That's all we can do. If he hits the dipper out, good for you, Patty. Shake your hand, all that stuff. But it relaxed him for that moment where the rest of the game, he just threw blinders.
There's so many things, Hilly, about that clip that stand out to me, but just how he approaches those things from a calm perspective. He comes out, he throws a bit of comedy to calm the guys down in a big situation, but he also knows how important his role is on the team. And you know what? I don't know if Jarvis win that championship game if he's not behind the dish, but what a special moment.
It's wild what goes on throughout a game. You know, the conversations that are had in that circle out on the pitcher's mound, the mentality of the catcher, the pitcher, whoever it is that we're talking to. It's and again, like I touched on earlier, these are stories that need to be told because they're cool. They're interesting and they're cool. And it's what people want to hear. And I just love it.
Yeah, it was awesome. Sean O'Brien, one of the best. Now we get to transition into the Australia portion of our guest list. And we got our great buddy, Nick Shales, 3-time ISC MVP. What a story this guy has from coming over from Australia, planting roots in North America, and what he's done in the game. It's going to be tough for anybody to repeat it, that's for sure.
I think he's 3-time visitor to Newfoundland, maybe 4 times.
Well, he went for your wedding, and I still think he wakes up with nightmares of the night the boys got together. What a time we had down there.
Yeah, but I mean, our leader with the cheat. Well, one of our leaders. It feels like we play with a team of leaders, but Shalesy. I mean, what can you say? One of the best to ever do it. Still doing it at a high level, and we had a great conversation.
Yeah, and one of the things that stand out the most to me about his conversation, there's 1,000 things in there that we could touch on. His work ethic, what it took for him to get over here and get noticed in Australia, with how far he had to travel as a kid to get on the map. But he was instrumental in the formation of the Hill United Chiefs and what that organization has done. So that's the clip that we've picked from his episode, is how Hill United got formed. And we're lucky to have Shalesy come on with us tonight to introduce that clip and give us a little bit of the behind the scenes behind it. So let's bring Shalesy in. Well, get ready, folks, for this funny accent about to come your way, but we're bringing in our good buddy from the land down under, Nicky Shales. What's up, buddy?
So, Shalesy.
Jeez. Funny accent coming from you. Jeez. What's going on, boys?
Oh, not too much, buddy.
Not too much.
Getting you on here, we're going through our favorite moments from the podcast so far, from all of our episodes. And yeah, your episode was one of our favorites in general. There's so many high-level things, but we got to do a lot of these episodes and the stories we talk about they're personal for us. We've gone through a lot of these moments with our guests, but what really stands out to me and what we've picked as our favorite moment from your episode is you were instrumental in the formation of one of the best fast pitch teams of our generation, right? With the Hill United Chiefs. And that doesn't form without you doing what you did from a player-to-player recruitment and the initial conversation. It was really cool to talk about that story and have our listeners get a behind the scenes on how one of the best teams was formed. But when you look back on your episode and maybe the podcast overall, what are your thoughts on it?
Oh, mate, it's a lot of fun. It's always good fun getting on and talking a lot of shit with you two. But no, with the forming the Hill United stuff, like that was all the sponsorship group. They approached us and they done everything the right way. Brian Porter was very instrumental in all of that. Pete Hill, Kenny, like it's just so many people just working behind the scenes and approached us at the right time, the right place, and we all sort of pulled together and decided to put a group together that would hopefully win for the years to come.
Yeah, I remember when Hilly was talking about that, and he was talking to you, and he was talking to Falkart on Facebook or over whatever. He's like, "Are you guys coming? Because if you're coming, I'm coming." But
I didn't know
he wasn't.
I didn't know who. Like, I never spoke 2 words to Falkart in my life. And I added him on a friend to Facebook, and I was like, "Hi, Adam. I'm Jason Hill." I don't know if you know me, but are you playing with Hill United next year? Yeah, he's like, "Yeah, mate, I'm in." Okay.
Yeah. And now we're 10 years in, and all the things that we've had a chance to do together. There's going to be a few Shalesy mentions and Hill United stories as we come. But right now, let's get into our favorite moment from Nick Shale's episode, the formation of the Hill United Chiefs. You and Adam were really the guys that spearheaded the whole formation from a player's side of things of Hill United. Can you walk us through how that whole thing started and turned into what it is today?
Yeah, so Adam and I were playing in Erie, and a guy named Mike Joseph actually came down and pitched in that league. And from there, he decided to bring us up to Buffalo to play in the league during the week. And he basically turned around and said, "Well, do you guys know what you're doing next year?" We got no idea. And he's like, "Well, I think we might have a team from just north of the border. We want to bring you up and show you what we're about, and this is what we can do. So to just bring your passport." So we, all right, sounds good. We went and played in Buffalo. It was a different league. I think both Adam and I came out and hit 2 or 3 home runs in it each, and Adam just struck out everybody there, and it was ridiculous. And then they took us across into the falls, across the border, and showed us exactly the sort of team that they wanted to build. And they put us up at the Hilton. They showed us a great time. They took us out to dinner. They took us for a meal, show, absolutely everything. And it basically said, "Look, guys, you won't have to worry about a thing. All we want you to do is show up and play. And we plan on building the best team in the world."
Wow. And
from what they showed us and what we sort of seen from them, it didn't seem like they were lying. Right. So they said, "If you want to know, call Mark Johnson." Mark's played hockey for us. He's been around for a longer time. So call Mark, and Mark's like, "I'm already in." Like, I hope you guys are in, because I'm already playing for him. So up to you guys. I said, "Well, it seems like a great idea." And me and Adam talked it over, and it was tough, obviously, to leave Jarvis after winning 2 world titles with them, but it just seemed like the right time to transfer into something that we could literally be a part of something bigger here. And so we turned around and said yes. And then all of a sudden, it was me, Adam, and MJ, and then all of a sudden we turn around and, all right, there's Hilly, Bradley, Hilly, Lolly. Well, everyone just ended up just popping up left, right, and center. I was like, holy crap, these are like some of the best players in all of the other teams, yet we're still dealing with prawn. Yeah. So somehow we caught all of these guys on different years, and we were able to build this team with only 4 prawns and 1 prawn pitcher, I think it was.
Yeah, it was just good timing.
Well, that's one of my favorite things about getting to do this podcast is hearing the behind-the-scenes stories about the formation of one of the top teams over the last decade. And Shalesy, it's nothing new to our listeners out there, what you've done in the game, what you do on the field, all your accomplishments and championships, 3-time MVP, all that stuff. But sometimes it does go unnoticed, all the things that go on behind the scenes to make a team like the Hill United Chiefs come to fruition and go through a 10-year span like that. And you mentioned the sponsorship group with Pete Hill and Kenny Hill and Brian Porter. He likes to stay in the background a little bit, but it's really great to recognize how influential he has been in the success and the formation of that team over the years. But it's awesome to get you on here just to reflect on your episode, but we're going to get you back on here. And we knew that bringing you on, there's been some questions, so we're going to reflect a little bit on the 2021 season. And one of the big absences from the Hill United roster was Nick Shales, the captain, the number 3 hitter, shortstop, third baseman, everything. And no, there were some issues there with the travel on your end, but you were supporting the team throughout that whole journey. When you look at 2021, do you want to give a little bit of insight what went down for you personally there, and then what your thoughts are going into 2022 for Nick Shales and the Hill United Chiefs?
Yeah, this year was tough for me with all of the COVID stuff going on. A lot of our immigration paperwork and everything got pushed. So, which meant we weren't allowed to travel outside the country for a limited amount of time. And unfortunately, that was right when you boys took off to head to the States. But it is what it is, and I had to deal with it. But it was a great time watching you boys compete. It was tough watching from this side. And I don't think I'm ready to retire just yet. I don't think I could sit back and watch you boys have all the fun. But no, I'm looking forward to it. January in Florida is a new beast, and I'm really looking forward to coming back and enjoying some time with the boys and going to work.
Well, it might be a little bit tougher for you to hear that you lost your spot on the infield.
Oh, here we go. Right? Felix Pop fan. There's no one on planet Earth more excited to have Nick Shales join the infield on the Hill United Chiefs than Jason Hill sitting over there. But yeah, buddy, to say your absence was felt is an understatement. But what people also don't know is the constant text messages and phone calls and you being there as a buddy and a teammate as we're going through this stuff. And we're going to get the suit back up with you, hopefully here in a few weeks down in Florida, get you and Adam back on the roster going into 2022 and try and defend this world championship that we had. And it's also really cool, buddy, to see what you're doing with the Lumberjack Sports, and in particular right now, the HRD stuff. We follow it all along on social media with the back company that you've started with, again, with Brian Porter and with Trevor Oakes, and the things that you guys are putting out there. These are fantastic baseball bats that they're making a splash right now. So what do you got to say about HRD Co?
And Lumberjack's still going strong. It's a lot of fun. I've always put my heart and soul into that one, but HRD is just taking off like crazy. With the certifications we got, we're good to go worldwide. And I literally just got a message from Australia about 20 minutes ago saying that it's the best bat that the kids ever swung. So it's amazing what Trevor can do with the bats, but we're enjoying the ride so far, and it's building into a monster that's we're looking to take over a few places. We're enjoying it right now, and maybe we can get some of the boys swinging some wood while we're away on tour, and maybe bring out some wood softball bats and get the boys to have a swing at them.
How about a cricket paddle? Can you make them?
I bought you a cricket bat once, and you didn't use it.
Don't go putting that in his hand. Man, a softball bat's too complicated with him, but it's awesome to see what you're doing there. You're making a huge splash for a young company. What you've been able to do with that If people want to get in touch with you guys, HRD Backco on social media channels, nickshales27@gmail.com.
That's it. Or Nick at hrdbackco.com.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on, buddy. Can't wait to catch up with you soon.
Thanks for having me, boys.
Cheers, cheers. Happy holidays, buddy.
You too.
Well, Hilly, we get to go from a 3-time ISC MVP, one of the best to ever play, to the guy that's widely regarded as the best player playing today in Bradley Ezekiel. We were lucky enough to have him come on. He's more of a lead by example type guy. Doesn't like talking about himself too much, but it was great to get him on for his episode and going through everything that he's done in his career. A lot of it we've had the pleasure of going through with him. A lot of really high-level moments from a guy that's still doing things in this game that won't be done again.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy a lot of the young kids now are looking up to. He's widely considered one of the best hitters in the game right now. He's going to go down as one of the best hitters to ever play the game. And the kid has had a lot of big home runs in a lot of big time spots that me and you got a front row seat to.
Oh, 100%. And then you just balance that with his defense on the other end, and to see what he did this year at the ISC. There's guys that have played the outfield for years and years and years, have a whole career, maybe rob 1 home run. This guy robbed 4 home runs in the playoffs of the ISC championship, and he's simply, right now, he's the best player playing, and it was an unreal chat, and one of the best moments in his episode. We had a lot of laughs. There's going to be a couple coming up in the montage later on, but when we talked to him about that moment he stepped into the batter's box in the championship game in the 2015 Pan Am Games and how he approached that, one of the best moments in Canadian softball history, I'll never forget it.
Yeah, he made a special memory for all of us, for 17 guys, 16 guys in that ball team, all the management, all the fans. He made a special memory, and it's something that I'll never forget.
Well, here we go. Our favorite moment from Bradley Ezekiel, the 2015 Pan Am Game home run. So we win that championship, top of the world, and then got to reset to go into the Pan Am Games. And like I said, we could be here all night talking about all these, but we need to dive into Bradley. That's one of the biggest moments in Canadian softball history for sure. But we had a lot of pressure on us going into that tournament, but going into that championship game in particular, because at the ISFs, it was 23 years since Canada won. So we had a bit of pressure of trying to get us back on top. But then you flip to the other side of the coin at the Pan Am Games, and men's national team has never lost a Pan Am Game gold medal. And we're going in trying to preserve that streak to play Venezuela in the championship game. And you were hitting the ball on the screws the whole weekend, but you couldn't buy a break. I think the field was 10 feet. It was back. Yeah. I think it was 265 or 270 and not 250. And you must have hit 5 or 6 balls that would have been out in a normal field. But you went into that championship game and just put together a timely hit that'll go down in Canadian men's fast pitch history. You hit the home run that won the Pan Am Games for our country. What was that moment, that game, and that at-bat like for you?
It was something special. I mean, to get up with an opportunity like that for your country on home soil in front of so many fans, like a lot of family there too. My wife was there and all that. So, it probably it will go down probably as one of my biggest hits in my career. But, to do it for the boys, in such a tight game, like Urbanea was, a lot of change ups, a lot of off speed. He was kind of lulling us a bit, it was kind of, and Sham was doing his part, like mowing everybody down as he usually does. So he kept us in it there. So it was to go through that at bat. I remember not necessarily struggling, but not many hits to my name. And I remember Stewie coming down, John Stewart, coach, at third base, because I think they made a defensive change right before my bat. I think they walked Matty. Then they made a defensive change to left field, so it gave us a bit of time. He came down and he had a chat, and he was like, "They're throwing everything away." He said, "Hit one the other way, for fuck's sake." Thanks for the advice, coach. I tried to do that.
That was a good impression, actually.
Yeah. But no, I just remember, I'm going to try to just make good contact here. And he threw me, I remember it was inside dipper, and I fucking turned on it. And I I fucking crushed it is what I did.
You know what? You know what?
You did, and that it was a no doubter, man. And the place went up. It was
just
unreal.
one of those times when you hit it, you didn't feel it. It was an unreal feeling. I remember going around third and like kind of winking at Johnny Stewart, right? Fucking hit him on the other way type thing, right? But when getting to the plate after something like that, coming down the third baseline, you see everybody's faces and how happy everybody was. It was unreal.
Yeah. You know what Johnny Stewart said to me before my last event in that game? He said, "Skelly, you're in."
What a moment that was, man. I'll never forget it. And it couldn't happen to a better guy, Hilly. But now we're talking about one of the guys that's had big moments, as we said, one of the best hitters, best all-around players. And now we get to go into our heroes. Two of the best ever played a game in Colin Abbott and Todd Martin. And I was nervous about that one. We're coming in doing this podcast. We're bringing on two of our heroes. Yeah, they've been teammates. Yeah, they're friends. But I was nervous about that one.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, I grew up I'm from the same town as Colin Abbott's from, and he's been a hero of mine since I've been, since I started swinging a bat. And then, you talk about Todd Martin. I don't know. He was a hero of mine for 3 or 4 years till I got pitched in ICs, found out I was a shit, and he was no longer my hero because it was too hard to do. Yeah. But I mean, listen, two of the best of the best. I say this about every guest, but the numbers don't lie. And we got to watch these guys from young kids in the stands, and just what a treat.
Yeah, and the amount of stories that came up in that episode when we first went down there driving around in the Gator with two of the boys rolling around in the back for the first time, to me owning Marty as trying to pitch, he can't get me out, and Colin poker, all that stuff, and then you pitching to Abby when he was getting ready to go down to New Zealand, which is one of my favorite stories ever. But we just came off a legendary Pan Am game home run in the Bradley clip. But one of the best moments that sticks out to me about Colin Abbott and Todd Martin's episode is when Colin Abbott talked about his home run at the Pan Am games in 1999. And what a special moment. Let's get into that one. Colin, on that game, I mentioned it in another episode on here where there's just that resurgence of these games being posted up on YouTube now, and getting the chance. We hear the stories and we get to relive it just through hearing the story in the beer tent or picking your guy's brain and asking you about big games, but to get to see it on YouTube. And we know what it's like to play in the Pan Am games, to play in the championship game on home soil, and just the buzz, the environment, the anticipation, the nerves, everything that comes along with that. But your team depends on you to come up in big situations, and you did what you do, on the top stage. And that first inning you got in, and you pretty well led the charge right out of the gate with that 2-run home run. That must have felt pretty good.
I mean, we hadn't exactly been tearing the cover off it for the whole week. You look at they put our averages up after I was watching the game after they put our averages up, like I'm hitting as Dean Holland said, I'm hitting a soft taco, I hit about $1.20, right? So you put our averages up and holy, how do we even get here, right? Right? Their number 3 hitter is hitting about 120, and but you get in that situation, and I faced Doug Middleton up to that point in my career 1,000 times. You knew he was going to throw drop balls away. He wasn't going to challenge you. He didn't have a great Ross ball. It was first pitch. He had a good drop ball, good changeup. So you knew he wasn't going to challenge you. And I got to a 3-2 count, and there was a base open as well. I think Rosie or Patton was on second base. So I thought they might not, come. They're not going to challenge you too much with a base open. So I kind of went, you know what? If it's going to be outside corner, I'm going to go after it. I had the ability to hook pitches on the outside corner as well. Yeah. But he kind of left one up a little bit, and to get a 2-run lead certainly like that, and to hit a home run, at the Pan Ams in front of your home fans, investors groups, home office was there, so they had 3 or 4 rows of investors group employees and staff and everything were there as well. So that was kind of cool from a personal,
cool, man.
Right?
Another shameless plug.
Oh, hey, do what you got to do. But I mean, once again, and what was really cool after the game, a little boy comes up to me and goes, "Mr. Abbott," he said, "Here's the game ball, or here's the home run that you hit." I said to him, here, I'll sign it, and you can have it. And he goes, no, he said, I want you to have it. Right. So this is probably 10 or 12 years old. So, it's pretty cool to be involved in something like that to help your team out first and foremost, help your team win a game, and doing, like I said, in front of your home fans. I mean, we've all been a part of that now, and it was it's tough to beat really to win with Team Canada.
And there you have it, folks. Colin Abbott, one of the biggest home runs in Canadian softball history. And if people wonder why we look up to the guy so much, Hilly, there you have it.
Yeah, it's the big boys get big hits in big spots, and Colin Abbott did it time and time and time again. And this just what can I say about the guy? He's one of our heroes.
Absolutely. And then we had another one of our heroes on that episode in Todd Martin. And what can you say about that guy? He's one of the most dominant pitchers to ever play. The filthiest changeup. Big moments, you hit your horse to this guy and you just let him go. And there's so many things about the guy that we can talk about. But one of my favorite moments from his episode wasn't so much what he did on the ball field. It's just what he brings to the team outside of it. His humor, but one of the funniest stories, and that's what I love. Listen to a good Todd Martin story. And when he talks about 2008, the game, again, Kitchener versus Mindak, him and Jody Ite, it is my favorite on-field moment. And let's hear it.
Hey, Barty, you got to tell the Jody Ite story about the two triples.
Oh man,
you can't leave and not tell that story.
Oh, my favorite on-field moment, favorite softball story. You got to walk us through that, Marty.
Yeah, we're playing against. What was the name of the team?
Was it Kegel?
Yeah, it might have been Kegel, wasn't it? So
the little slapper, yeah. No.
Yeah, Lucas Goring's at the bat. He leads off the game. Leads off the game, hits a number in front of home plate. Jody's playing third, and he picks it up, throws it in the right field corner. Lolly, you're playing right field, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, throws it into Lolly. Lolly playing catch with Lolly. So that goes for a triple, or he goes to third base. And then we get out of the inning. That's the lead off too. So we get out of the inning, and he comes back up to bat in the third or the fourth or whatever. Whenever he comes back again, same thing. Hits a number in front of home plate. And I remember that one because he throws it to Lolly again, and Lolly you got all tangled up in the tarp, I think, didn't you? You're
I wasn't expecting him to. I thought I was getting ready to go in the dugout.
Yeah, you're getting tangled up in the tarp there where they tarp the field. So he gets to third base again, and we get out of the inning. It's still 0-0. It was a really tight game, actually. I think Gossi was actually thrown against us that game. So it was he threw a good game. It was a really good game. So, anyways, he comes up the bat. I guess probably the sixth inning, and Jody calls time and walks over and says, "Marty." He grabs the ball to my hand. He's rubbing it up. He says, "Marty." He says, "Careful, this guy." He said, "He's got two triples this game."
Well, Hilly, we just heard a clip from 2008 from Todd Martin, and this guy coming up right now is one of Todd Martin's favorite guys to play with, our teammate since we've been 17, 18 years old, one of the best to come out of Newfoundland, Blair Ezigel.
Yeah, another guy who's just clutch, man. Big spots against the big pitchers, clutch. He could hit them all.
Yeah, and one of the biggest moments in his career, and one of my favorite moments from this episode, is when he walks us through the 2008 championship game, which has come up a bunch of times in different episodes on this podcast. But one of the crucial moments in that game is when Blair Ezigel stepped into the batter's box in the fifth or sixth inning. And what can we say? That's what the guy does in big games. He gets big hits. But it's pretty cool to hear his approach, how he walked through, and he's facing one of his heroes and good buddies in Dean Holine. What a moment. Yeah. Let's get into it. A couple of big moments in that game when you hit the home run. Can you walk us through kind of that game, but in particular that at bat? Because you'll go down in softball lore as a professional hitter, one of the best hitters to ever played a game, one of the best clutch performers in big moments. And we'll touch on that a little bit later. But in particular, that moment, can you walk us through that game from your perspective?
To be honest, I love Dino. He's one of I consider him one of my best friends in the game, and you guys as well. Second, they're probably the funniest man at fast pitch. He's the best teammate ever. And it just so happened had to be off him. Hey, like it's just he was mowing everybody down for that whole game, and just listen to Jody and listen to Wolfie and Patty a little bit, and even yourself, Lolly. You were picking up some stuff too. Just you weren't relaying a whole lot because you were whacked on morphine the whole time.
Remember, I had that friggin' thing hanging out of my lip, that acupuncture needle. Yeah. Anyway, but that's But we won't go off track. But yeah, you got up in a big spot there, right?
Yeah, no, yeah. So no, the whole, I mean, and you listen to, I always drew off what Colin Abbey used to say years and years ago. Abbey used to say, you know what, whoever wins the game is the people who can adjust the most. If you can make your adjustments, you're gonna come out on top. So the whole game, Dino was just throwing. I mean, you were there, Lolly. Hilly was probably in the beer tent, pie-eyed there. With the farm locals, yeah.
Certainly was, yeah. Collar was popped at that point.
Yeah, so Dino was just throwing. I mean, he probably threw at going into the sixth inning, he probably threw 80 pitches, 69 of them were Ross, or no, 79 of them were Ross balls, and they were just 100-mile-an-hour Ross balls. You couldn't square them up. So I guess it got down to the late in the game, and I remember Patty saying, "Hey, I'm just going to swing as hard as I can, as usual. And if I'm going to try to hit a home run here." He said, "You do the same." This is because Patty was batting ahead. I said, "Patty, well, we got nothing else to do. We're both over 2K, so." Right, and so Patty hits a 3-2. I think the ball went over the fence and kind of came back towards the fence. It went that high, so he hit his, and as he crossed the plate, he said to me, "Do the same thing." And so, I mean, personally, I went in, I approached. And Dino's going to kill me if he hears this. So what I do, I used to call timeout. When the pitcher got on his rubber and get a sign, I call timeout and back out. The reason I did that is Dino got into a groove, such a great groove that I try to throw him off. I try to not tar him out, but get on the mound, get frustrated, maybe lose a pitch down the middle. And fortunately enough, the second pitch of the at-bat went down the middle, and I got a good piece of it and ended up in the bleachers. So that whole bat, I said, I'm just going to mess with Dino a little bit, try to get him off his rhythm. I know he's pissed off. Patty just hit a home run, so he's going to throw extra hard, but I'm going to try to mess him a little bit. So he got on his rubber, got his sign, tried to go to the side of the hip. I called time, back out. He stayed on the rubber. I did it again. He stayed on the rubber, and then he threw it down the middle.
Sorry, Dino, buddy.
You guys were down 3-0 or
3-0, and then Patty hit a shot. I hit a shot, and down 3-2, and then I think the next batter might have been like Sandy was in batting for Lolly because he couldn't hit, or Dan Loney or something like that. And they got out of the inning, and then we go to the top of the seventh, and Wolfie hits the first pitch. Dino throws the second drop ball he threw total all game. He hit into the Fox River. So,
so here we are, Hilly, 9 episodes into the podcast with Blair Esical. And, we're starting to hit our stride maybe a little bit. But when you're thinking back, where are we now as a podcast?
Well, we're picking up some steam now, right? So we're starting to figure some stuff out, getting a bit of momentum. Right?
Yeah, there you go.
So, and 10th episode, it's an anniversary episode, right? So we made it to 10 episodes. It's a big deal.
You're number
right?
10.
So we're number 10. And this was part of the conversation. We're trying to figure out who are the next guests going to be, right? So we said, well, why don't we just have a couple of the coolest guests we know for our number 10th episode?
We didn't have to look too far, did we, buddy? Then we brought on, that's hilarious. But then we bring on Chris Abbott for this episode. We had a few people reach out to us saying they thought it'd be a cool idea to get Chris Abbott on, turn the mic around, give it to him, and have him host an episode with us as the guest, talk about a little bit about our relationship, playing together, some of the things we got to experience in the game. And it was really timely because we're coming off the heels of the 2021 season, which was very special for us, winning another ISC championship. And it was great just that we got a chance to play ball. But it was really cool to get to talk about a bunch of things over our career and a lot of stories, a little bit behind the scenes. But from that episode, we don't need to talk about all the things that went through there, but one of the really cool moments in that episode was focusing in on the 2021 ISC championship game when Jason Hill gets to step up into the batter's box in the bottom of the 6th inning with bases loaded and a chance to put his team up in a tie ball game. And it was one of my favorite softball moments ever, but it was pretty cool that it came up on our 10th episode of a podcast. Getting better every game, and then it kind of culminated with Hilly stepping in the batter's box with bases loaded there in the bottom of the 6th inning. Or 7th inning, was it, Hilly?
It's top 7, yeah.
we've all seen Jason in that situation 100 times, and to see you hit the ball hard to right field is nothing new. As the career goes on, and we'll talk some about, you know, the accomplishment and the championships. As the career goes on and these opportunities are, you know, will become fewer and fewer. How good did that feel to break that one open?
Oh man, it was, I can't even describe to you how good it felt. Like, you know, the situations you dream of, you know, as a kid, or, you know, you start playing your IC game, your IC tournaments and stuff. You just say, like, you know, you're training, you think about being up in the 7th inning, tie ball game ISCs, and you have a chance to win it for your team. You know, it wasn't the bottom of the 7th or anything like that, but it was, you know, I had an opportunity to put our team in a very good position. And so, and, you know, we had bases loaded with no outs. And if you watch that video, so we all know what happened. Lolly hit one to, I think it was Nicky Mullins.
Yeah.
And he threw it home, and then our guy had go ahead.
No, you're talking about, you know, the dreams when you come, and I got to accomplish my dream of getting up and grounding out to short with the game on the line, and but I knew, I saw you on deck, and I said, well, a hit here probably mean more to Hilly now than it would me. Yeah. So, no, I got to live out my dream there.
You fucked up there. There was no question about it. But anyway, you see that we had a player came in with a hard slide, and then there was a little bit of a dust up. Right. And if you're watching the video, I'm just kind of still smoothing out my box. I'm like, holy fuck. I said, I can't get involved in all this. I said, I got a big job to do here. This is going to be over momentarily. And I'm just keep smoothing out my box and, you know, making sure all the holes are filled, like getting the box ready to bat. Right. So that's all I needed now going, you know, as a pressure enough situation. All I need is someone fucking smacking me in the face here before I get, you know, before I'm going to bat off Josh Pettit in top of the 7th, the IC finals. Right. But he's out there throwing 82 miles an hour. But anyway, yeah, man, it was a surreal moment, I must say. And to be honest with you, the very first pitch, he got a lot of plate on that first pitch, and I fouled it off. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, that was the one. I don't think I'm going to see a pitch like that again. I'm like, fuck. I was like, that was the one to jump on. But and the pitch that I hit was the next pitch, and it was actually a good pitch from his standpoint. It was down and in, and Abe's. I was talking to Abe's after. He said, I don't know how you hit that. I had to go down and get it, and anyway, I was able to barrel it up enough and kind of put it off the fence. But when I got on second base, I don't even know. Like I probably could have got to third. I have no idea. I was just jumping on second base, jumping up and down, and I see Lolly slide in for the third run. And he pumped his fists, and then I was just like shouting and hollering, and I was like, fucking heart was coming out of my chest. It was cool, man. It was a very cool experience. I'll never forget it.
And Abby, on that one cool moment for me that I think I'll remember this for as long as I live, and it's just one of the kind of behind the scenes type things is, so I got the first base, you know, I beat out that ground ball, ran really hard, so I didn't get doubled off.
Got with a bad groin, mind you.
Torn groin, but taped up. Way you go, got there, and Nico went in hard, and then the dust up happened. But you have to go in hard there. I don't think he never went cleats up. It was a hard play, and they responded to a hard play. But I got to first base, and John Hill is coaching there, and he looked at me. You know, just came over. He said, "Lolly, this is the ISC right here. This is the championship. This at bat." I said, "You're fucking right, Johnny." I said, "Hilly's up," and it was just that moment where, I don't know, it was a wave of calm, but also excitement. It was almost like you can anticipate what was going to happen, and then the next pitch, Hilly fouled it straight back, and I had the same thing. I said, "There's your fucking pitch. You screwed it up." But sure enough, as soon as it went to the gap, thought it might have had a chance to go, but knew he had to bear down and score. But sliding in the home plate, coming up, seeing the boys, turning around, seeing Hilly on second base, just with the arms up in the air, it was unbelievable. But Johnny Hill coming over saying, This is the championship game right here, this at bat, and then bang, double off the fence. It was something I think I'll remember for the rest of it.
Yeah, that field must have been 270, 275, huh?
238, I think it was. But you got every bit of 237 in it. Hilly, buddy, there's been a lot of moments I've got to see playing alongside you over the years, but that one, I think I'll remember for the rest of it. It's been pretty cool to get a front row seat to seeing you in those moments. But what I appreciate the most about it is that we got the opportunity to play in 2021. And if you look back in the early episodes, of the podcast, we brought our good buddy Blair Setford on to give us a preview of the 2021 season. We didn't even know whether we're going to be able to play. And then we got to go down there. What he did, bringing the broadcast on very limited resources across the world on short notice, that was unbelievable. But we're lucky to have Blair coming back on with us tonight. We're going to talk to him a little bit about the 2021 season and look forward to some things on the radar for 2022 when it comes to the broadcasting front and the ISC front. So, Blair, thanks for coming back on with us, buddy.
Well, it's always been a great pleasure to join you. And the roster of guests that you guys have had over 15, 16 episodes has just been tremendous. I enjoy listening to every one of them.
We appreciate you saying that, buddy. It means a lot. And we had you on early in the podcast, and you've been a supporter of ours since we broke into the ISC. And to see what you've done, not only on the broadcasting front from an ISC executive side of things, but you had a really challenging season from the ISC, whether this was going to happen. And when you look back on the 2021 season, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it was such a struggle whether or not we were going to get the World Tournament played. Normally it takes about 24 months of planning and working with a host committee to bring together all of the different things that need to happen. You've got to have the physical space in place. You need to have deals with hotels and sponsors and volunteers. And all of this takes time and effort to put together. And we went to the Quad Cities host committee after it became quite apparent, and Jim Hallman with the Kitchener host committee came to us in January of 2020 and said, look, it doesn't look like we're going to be able to do this in Kitchener. We know it's the 75th anniversary. We would have loved to have had it here in Kitchener, but we just can't do it. We don't see how it can happen. So we had 11 months, not even 10 or 9 months to get this ready in Eldridge. And Quad Cities, the host committee there, Lynn Hunt and her people, they went to Eldridge, which is a small town in Iowa, about 10 minutes north of where we normally play in Moline. They had some fields there. There was work that needed to be done, but we had a very cooperative town council, and they were behind it 100%. They made it happen. And, we were able to go there with a reduced roster of teams and players. Not everybody was available, but still, I thought it was a great World Tournament. There were some hiccups along the way, not perfect, but for the lead-in time that we had and for the capabilities of people to come together and play, I thought it was still a very memorable event.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm still shocked that it actually happened. Like, from everything you just mentioned, from the logistical side of things, from players from all over God's creation, to be able to get there, travel there, deal with quarantine stuff upon arrival, then whatever quarantine they have going home, whatever country they're from. I mean, the fact that it actually went down, I'm happy it did, obviously. But the fact that it actually went down and it ran as smooth as it actually did was, it was pretty wild. It was wild to see.
Yeah,
it was tremendous. I think Quad Cities, again, they deserve all the credit for pulling together all of the volunteers and the people in the town of Eldridge. They embraced it. It was a different type of atmosphere, that's for sure. But yeah, they made it work, and I'm glad I got the opportunity. I'm sure you guys are glad you got the opportunity to go. Obviously, you won, makes a big difference, but it was certainly an experience.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, winning 100%. It's not often you get to win an ISC, but this one, you felt lucky being there. Just getting a chance to compete, to see people that maybe you took for granted. You get to see just to play a game of ball, your buddies from all over the world, and the competition side of things. But for you personally, you had to look at it from a couple of different angles. One, the executive side with the ISC, just in bringing this thing together. But then a completely different side of things when it comes to broadcasting this and trying to get and showcase this tournament to people back home who couldn't travel and people who normally would travel but couldn't because of the COVID restrictions. So it was probably even more important from that standpoint to bring this tournament to people back home. And you did a fantastic job we saw you. I know you had a team around you, but you took a lot on your shoulders broadcasting those games. And Hilly and I want to take this moment here to recognize what you did on the broadcasting side of things to bring that to everyone. Fantastic job, and thank you for doing what you're doing.
Well, it was a great thing that it came together. I mean, when I originally was planning to go, we didn't have a broadcast in the works because Kyle and Joe, my right and left hand, they weren't going to be able to make it, and we didn't have anything planned. We were concentrating on the basics of the tournament, making sure that we got the draw together, making sure that we were going to have as many teams as possible, that we weren't going to have the usual complement of things like games controllers and stuff like that, and scorekeepers for that matter. So we were tasking, our directors to take over these tasks, and the broadcast wasn't in the cards until late July. A young fellow by the name of Luciano Lafrano worked the Peligro tournament in New York City and got to know a couple of the Gremlins guys, expressed some interest in maybe coming over to the ISC. They talked with Les Novak, who's one of our commissioners, and Les agreed to put some money into it. That was at the St. Paul Tin Cup tournament. I think you guys might have been at that tournament. That was where it really started to come together. And it got finalized really literally in the last 2 weeks prior to the World Tournament. So that's how quickly it came together. It was a bit of a bare bones operation. We're going to do more and bigger things in 2022 as Luciano comes back. I literally was just talking to him today. He says he's got new technology, new cameras, new opportunities. So we're looking forward to build on that. But it really did come together last minute. Some sponsorship came together to make it work. And you know what? I mean, it was a lot of work for me personally to be doing. I think we did 16 games over the course of the week. But it was, we all do this because we want to promote the game. You guys are doing podcasts. We do the broadcast. We all do it because we love the game. We want to promote the game. And that was something that I was, personally thrilled to be able to take on as a challenge, and to get through it was to bring that tournament to the people who couldn't be there.
Yeah, and it was very special. And you got to call a pretty special moment in ISC championship history. Another fantastic championship game between the Hill United Chiefs and the Gremlins. And you got to call Jason Hill stepping up into the batter's box with bases loaded in the bottom of the sixth. But can you quickly just tell us what you think back on that moment from the broadcast booth, seeing a Jason Hill walk into the batter's box then?
I think he moved the fences back.
Really good.
Here we go. Yeah, he moved. Yeah.
Jason, do you want to talk about this too? I mean, you were having yourself a great tournament. I know we chuckled earlier in the week about your aborted home run. You got halfway around the bases and then realized that you had to go back. So I know we had laughed about that earlier in the week. But you had a strong tournament. You were hitting the ball well all week. It was funny. Whenever you came up, I walked to the front of our broadcast tent out in right field because I know you like to hit line drives to right field, and I didn't want you taking out all of our equipment. I was going to throw myself in front of something if I had to.
Yeah, Blair, and you captured that moment perfectly and got to bring it to a lot of people who wish they could be there and they couldn't. But we're counting our way down through our favorite moments from our first 15 episodes. And we're going into episode number 11 now with Devin McCullough. And you got to be a part of one of the best broadcasting calls, definitely in Canadian fast pitch history, if not the WBSC on the men's side for sure. In 2015, when Devin McCullough came in front of a hometown crowd against New Zealand, and that's what we've picked as our favorite moment from his episode is him walking us through that final out. Well, let's just talk about when that tournament started. We're in Saskatoon representing Team Canada, your hometown, and we're going in to try and win a world championship. There had to be a ton of distractions. It's different for you being the hometown boy. How did you handle that?
Honestly, I think I was just because I was just young and dumb back then. It just nothing really affected me then. Like there was no mental game needed. But obviously there was, but it just kind of there was zero fucks given. I could just say. Like it just none of that stuff really went through my mind. It was pretty much if I got the ball, just go throw it.
Yeah,
that's what I kind of figured, right?
Simple.
Yeah. So just you being young and dumb, I think was kind of a huge factor that helped kind of way, right? You just didn't really know what you actually were a part of until it actually was over, and then you kind of took it all in.
That's pretty cool to hear that.
Yeah, like it's just kind of it's weird, but it was kind of the way it was. But then, like the funniest thing I know, after going through the tournament, though, and going in the championship game, like I'm the young guy on the team, right? First time, and I'm just kicking it in. I was sitting on the end of the bench, hiding from everyone, having a smoke. When Scooby looks at me, he looks at me, he's like, "You fucking smoking on the bench?" And I was like, "Go fucking warm up." So yeah, run down the sidelines. Okay, let's get going.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was priceless.
That is funny, man.
I never knew that.
But that is freaking hilarious, actually. But then we got to come up out of the dugout after you butt out your smoke and throw a few warm-up pitches. We got to come in and we face the haka across the field. The place is going bonkers. You got probably all your friends and family you ever known are up in the stands. And then you're not starting that game. We're going with Sean, a fresh Sean off of the 4-inning win in the game before. And then we get down. We get down 5-0. And you're tapped to come in, and you come in, and you walk in a run, dumb move, dummy, walks in the 5th run, bases loaded, but then immediately turn around, and it was a turning point of the game, because you came in, and we're at a point in the championship game at the ISF with bases loaded, down by 5, they're a base hit away from having enough runs to mercy us, and then you get that strikeout. And then I remember how you popped off the mound, and we go in, and that's when we kind of came together, said, let's go. And we battle back. We get up 10-5, and you've been throwing an absolute blinder from there on out. It was unbelievable to see, just the way you're coming off the mound. And then you got Stephen Ratu you get this out, we're world champions. What was that final at-bat like?
So, yeah, like the first 3 pitches were all rise balls, right? First one was low, second one was low, and then the third one was high. But even like I just had the adrenaline rocking. I just thought in my mind, I'm throwing. This is the hardest I've ever thrown in my life. He's not gonna hit, there's no chance he is. And then just all of a sudden, Sandy threw down the changeup. Like fuck, he fooled me for fuck's sake. So I'm like, oh shit, yeah, I guess we can do that one. Because yeah, because like you said, even before, like when I first came in the game, honestly, I was shitting my pants. First batter, I probably fucking laid a nugget in there. All I know. And then Sandy, thank God, Sandy's one of the best ever. He comes out, he just looks at me, he's like, "I'm not even putting down the signal. You just throw the number 1 as hard as you fucking can." I was like, "Oh, sounds good to me." Yeah, yeah. So yeah, no, and then Then happened to be good. Like I said, last pitch to the Ratu was probably one of the best changeups I ever threw. Thank God.
I just remember, I'll never forget. I seen the changeup come in, swing and a miss. The place explodes, and you just stand on the mound, 2 arms up in the air. You fired a glove, 2 arms up, and I beat it out there as fast as I could. And it's kind of the last thing I remember till everything settled down. Yeah. It was one of the coolest experiences I've ever been through, and it wasn't even my hometown.
Yeah, that was cool. I'll never forget it. Thank God it's on video, so we get to relive it, because right at the end of one of those videos, I got the Shaw one. They sent me the Shaw one, which was pretty cool, and they show us running around the outfield with the flag.
That was cool.
That was a pretty cool experience, because everyone stuck around. It's not like the place emptied out. Everybody there. It was a Canadian victory. It wasn't just the guys on the field. Everyone there got to share in that. And then we get to run around with the Canadian flag around the fence. Everybody's coming in. That was unreal. And Devo, for you in particular, that run around the field, that had to be pretty special.
Oh, 100%. Like I said, even to this day, I think and I could win, 20 ISC championships until the day I die now. And I think any day will ever come near what that was, winning in your hometown, and having everyone that's been around watched you play since were knee high to a grasshopper, and then playing in your home stadium, like you play league in every week, and then winning an ISF World Championship there is, there's no words that can even really describe how amazing it was. Is like, it was pretty much the perfect end to a storybook ending, as if you could ever write one.
What do you remember from that?
So Jim Flanagan and I talked in between innings because Jim was doing the play-by-play, and he turned to me and he said, listen, whenever the final out happens, he said, I'm just going to call it, and then you're going to take over. So I started to think, oh boy, this is going to be a big moment here because of, we're here at home. Canada looks like they're going to win this ball game. It's been since '92, and I was just starting to try and think of different things that might be appropriate. And I mean, if you guys remember, that stadium was packed. Everybody was on their feet. Everybody was right into it. Every single pitch. Everybody knew the changeup was coming. And Devin came with the changeup. Jim called strike 3. And I think I said, Team Canada, we're standing on guard here for you. Golden at home. And it was a bit of a play on the Sidney Crosby goal from 2010. Chris Cuthbert called it the golden goal. And I kind of had that in the back of my mind. So that's how that came about. The funny thing, what Devo didn't talk about was the F-bomb that he dropped on me on the post-game interview afterwards.
Well, I don't know if anyone's surprised about that, but it's cool to hear the behind the scenes for sure. But he's.
I asked Devin. I said, "Hey, what was it like coming into that ball game with the crowd on your side, being in your hometown?" And Devin says, "Oh man, it was fucking awesome."
Yeah,
national TV. That's okay.
No, it's cool. We talk about having access to these things on YouTube now, and I'm so thankful that that game is available. Right, my son will get to see that game someday, but you got to crown that off with one of the most iconic softball broadcast moments, and it's awesome to have you on here reflecting on the 2021 season. What can softball fans of the ISC expect now? A little bit uncertain with things going on, but what's on the radar for ISC 2022?
Green Valley in Moline, Illinois, where there's been a lot of great success and great tournaments over the years. The Adam Falkard no-hitters, the Toronto Gators walk-offs, just to name a couple. So we're looking forward to a great tournament there. And there are going to be some changes, obviously, amongst the teams and things like that. But, yeah, we're going to be on hand with the ISC network and bring that to everybody worldwide as we've done the last few years.
Yeah, from the player side, it just sounds, you hear rumors and this and that. It sounds like there's a lot of player movement going to happen, or it's already happened, I guess, for next season. But I don't know. It's uncertain times in the sports world in general right now. So we're hoping and praying that we get down there and we can have a competition.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that have got to happen between now and then. Borders have got to stay open. We've got to get continue on with the vaccination efforts and get us out of this whole pandemic thing here. But yeah, fingers crossed that happens. There's some big tournaments even before then that have got to still happen too, and hopefully maybe we'll be able to bring you some broadcasts from some of those things as well.
That's awesome, Blair. And thanks again for your support of the podcast, for coming on here and giving the updates. We're going to get you on, as we talked about, for a full episode where we get to sit down and go through everything that we have and what you've done in the game. But appreciate everything that you do and look forward to seeing you in 2022, buddy. Thanks for coming on.
Hi, fellas. Take care. Cheers.
Thanks, Blair.
Well, Hilly, we're working our way down through the Harry Potter series here, buddy. But yeah, that was great to hear from Blair Sedford. And we're transitioning from one of the most iconic moments in Canadian fast pitch history with Devin McCullough. And we got a chance to talk to our former teammate and now turned coach, Jeff Ellsworth, in his episode. Another amazing chat, very insightful.
Yeah, it was cool to see the I guess because there's a lot of guys like this that transition from player to coach, but we got to see it firsthand. We were a teammate with the guy for so many years, and now he's coaching us. But it was cool to get some insights from that perspective, from his eyes, to how he hung up his player's hat, put on his coaching hat, and then everything that was involved in doing that.
Yeah, and he's good buddies with Gerard Gallant, Turk Gallant, who coach in the NHL, and he talks a little bit about the advice that Turk gave him about transitioning from playing into coaching. And that's what we've selected as our favorite clip, is Jeff Ellsworth talking about creating the divide as being a former player to now coach on one of the top teams. Jeff Ellsworth.
How is it from going from, okay, so these were my teammates last year, these are my buddies, now I got to lead these guys, now I'm the coach. Speak on that a little bit, and how that came to be, I guess, and what it's been like for you with the transition.
Well, before pre-COVID, it was a conversation that Pete and I had, because the last ISCs we finished fourth, and Pete pulled me aside and said, "What's your plans?" And I said, "Pete, to be honest, my body's telling me, because the last game that we played, I hit an infield single, tried to run it out, and my groin was just enormously sore." And Pete said, "Well, what about the head coach GM?"
You would have sucked that bull nuts there last go off.
Yeah. But he said, no, he said, "You want to be the coach GM?" And I'm like, "Seriously?" And he says, "Yeah." I said, "Well, no problem." I said, "I don't even have to think about it." I said, "The Hill family's been so good to me since 2012. I said, it's a no-brainer. It's whatever the Chiefs need right now, then I'm in." So then COVID happened. So obviously you guys, I think, played in Florida in January. I couldn't make it down to that. And that was the only tournament that was played in 2019, 2020. And then this year in 2021, you know what, to be honest, Hilly, it was probably one of the first times in my ball career. And I know all you guys, I was extremely nervous going into it. I can say that now after the fact. I've caught myself upstairs, like, doing like signs in the mirror and all this stuff just to make sure I don't screw up, and studying what's the best sequence for a hit and run and all this bullshit. And I'm like, geez, what are you stressing for? But it was weird, like, to throw on the uniform and put on coaching shoes and not cleats and stuff like that, and getting to the field and going to that first huddle. Now you're not a player captain, now you're the coach. So now you're expected to say, when you're a captain or whatever, you can, not that you bullshit, but there's some leniency there. But now when you're at the head of the ship, there's a little more pressure. But and this was a unique situation where we're walking into 2021 and in Minnesota, we haven't played in a long time, and we know that it was going to be some rust there. Like, all of you boys in Newfoundland were playing, right? So there was going to be some rust. But man, it was quite a ride this past summer, and whenever it was over, like traveling to the ballpark with Pete and Johnny and not with the boys in a vehicle,
right?
That was different. But having a conversation with Turk, I run into Turk at the local hardware store here, and we sort of talked about making that transition from player to now coach. And he said, "Elsie," he said, "the number one thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to create that divide. No matter how bad you want to go and sit with the boys or go with the boys or whatever, there's got to be that divide. If there's no divide, whenever it's time to keep the athletes accountable, the credibility is not going to be there. So you have to create that divide right from the get-go and be firm on all your decisions and display an enormous amount of confidence. No matter if it's the right decision, if it blows up in your face, you be confident in everything that you do."
That's a pretty cool message to see a guy that's gone from playing his whole career at a high level to transitioning into coaching and then working his way up on the coaching side. It was great to see Elsie get an ISC world title in his first year coaching the Hill United Chiefs. And now we get to transition from him into our episode with Ryan Boland, who we know is one of the most intense ball players that we've had a chance to play with. We went through a lot of great moments with him. Really, really special episode talking about giving back to the game, some high-level moments in the Pan Am games. But my favorite, Hilly, was when he was talking about the 2016 Nationals back in Newfoundland. Controversial, intense, but a pretty special moment for the podcast.
Yeah, Ryan is a fiery balls to the wall player.
which we love as a teammate. But that particular incident brought out the fire in a lot of us. And it was interesting and pretty cool to hear it from his perspective because he was involved right in the middle of it.
Yeah. Well, here we go. Ryan Bolin, 2016 Nationals at home. When we played in our theme song, right at the end, Chris Abbott is saying, Mullally drops his glove, grabs Dalton. This happened right after you got bowled over by Matty Waugh in Newfoundland. And I want to know what that whole thing was like from your perspective, because that was one of the most intense moments. And sure enough, it had to happen in a Newfoundland versus Newfoundland national championship game at home. Just walk us through that.
Oh my, yeah. I mean, so obviously Matty out on second, Ryan Kirk up, and we're just like, we got to attack Ryan outside. Like he's not really. Sean's drop ball was biting, and Ryan likes to pull the up and in pitch. So, anyways, we went with a dipper away, and he went with the pitch, and looking at the video and remembering it, like Matty should have scored easily. You should have, Matty.
There you go.
I think Brad might have made a fake play out in the outfield, like he was going to catch it. And you see that play if you watch Major League Baseball. You see like people pretending they're going to catch it to try to check up runners. So maybe that happened. Ball dropped, the relay. Brad missed the cut. I think Shane was the cut, and Gilly was the chaser. I mean that play was so important that Gilly was chasing that cut play, and he threw a seed to the plate. There's no other way to put it. I mean, Matty hammered me. He fucking hammered me, and the helmet went flying, and he landed on top of me, and I rolled him over, and I cocked my fist, and I said, whatever I said to him, I said. And then the brouhaha happened, and you get choked and punched and told off, and then the fans are telling you off, and I'm home, like I'm 20 minutes from my house, and you're just fucking ripping me. Yeah. Like, I'm the villain. I'm the villain here because we're wearing black jerseys, I guess, or we're expected to win. I don't know. But like, we got no imports. We don't have any imports. We're all Newfoundlanders here, right? The Kelly's pub team got imports. That's what I said to someone I know that was chirping me. And I was like, just be quiet, man. Just I didn't say that word. I was like, come on. We're not, like, who are you chirping here, man? Like, I just got rocked. And, you should have got kicked out of the game. I'm like, for what? For what?
Exactly.
Getting fucking destroyed at home plate. Yeah. And flipping someone over. No. You're wrong. Anyway, I was in a kind of a bad place the rest of that game, as you can imagine. The people there chirping you, people that that was a bit shitty, but I'm super happy that you came up with the hit and Sean pitched the jam.
Hilly, we've been fortunate to have a lot of great teammates over the years. We've had a bunch of them on the podcast, but when we look at Dale Levy, that's for me what he'll be remembered as. Aside from being one of the most feared hitters, top clutch performers, he is the pinnacle for a great teammate. And we've been fortunate to go through a lot of great experiences with him over the last number of years.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the best teammates you ever had. But when I hear of Dale Levy, all I picture is balls hitting a softball bat and landing like 350 feet that way.
Exactly. Yeah, and we went through one of those special moments. And for me, I was there. I was his teammate in 2006, and that's what we picked as our favorite moment from Dale Levy's episode. When you were laying down, hung over under a tree, the Haley Comet, Dale Levy walk-off home run in the 2006 Canadian Senior Men's National. We get into the championship game. We go into extra innings against the host team, Prince George, with Corey Guru on the mound, who's just throwing blinders for 4 years in a row.
Yeah.
And then Big Red gets to come up in the bottom of the ninth inning, and I can still remember you walking to the batter's box, and bang, the biggest home run I've ever seen launched, and walk off. I still got a dent in my head because those low fucking dugouts. And I jumped up, and I think I hit a nail or a 2x4 or something. I nearly knocked myself unconscious, but I'm walking out dizzy. It was still to this day one of my favorite softball memories. But just walk us through that tournament, that game, and that at bat from your perspective.
Yeah. So, coming into that final game, Billy Horn had come to me and said, Red, I told everybody at the start of the week that, if whoever was playing well was going to play. And I said, yep. He says, Coley was batting, I think, 322, and I was batting 311. So he says, I don't want to upset you, but I said, hey, he's playing well. Of course you got to play him. I'm a team player. I want the best players on the field regardless, right? So he started the game, which I was fine with. We had good players out there. There was no need for any, desperate acts, right? So I sat there for 7 innings until we got to the 7th. And I don't think Mark had hit very well against Corey, which was understandable. I don't think he really saw him a lot, but I got a chance to come up to bat in the 7th. And I had my at bat, and it was a good at bat. I wasn't upset about it. He threw a lifter inside that I just, when I swung at it, I just missed it, right? And it was a type of pitch. It was my pitch, but I beat myself. And when I swung on it, as I got through, I don't even think I had the bat around. I had a smile on my face walking back to the dugout, because I was like, if I get back up again, he's going to try to throw that by me, and I'm going to hit it a mile. So here we are, 9th inning. I come up to bat, and I'm like, is he going to come back? You guys are hitters. Are they going to come back? Did they think they can beat me there again, right? So I stood in there, and he threw a pitch on the inside. It was, some umpires would have called it a strike. It wasn't a strike. It was off the plate. Very good pitch, but you could tell he was upset that he didn't get the call.
Right.
And I knew right there and then, I knew the catcher was going to go right back to the well. I put my foot in the bucket, and he threw it into my bat. And you guys know the feeling when you fully extend and, make a chop at a ball, and you hit the best part of the bat. You know that feeling, right?
Yeah.
And it just took off. And I just remember I probably only followed it for 150 feet. And then I just looked at you guys because I knew it was landing somewhere in Alberta. But
and so did we.
I floated around those bases. It's one of those things where you dream about playing in the biggest game and having the biggest hit, and essentially a walk-off home run is that, right? So I don't even remember going around the bases. Did I walk? Did I run? I thought I was floating. The only thing I regret is I should have took my helmet off before I got to home plate, because
you got beat to shit.
You guys beat the tar out of me.
What a beauty Dale Levy is, man. That was an awesome episode. Touched on a bunch of things. Then we get to go from him to arguably the GOAT, the Tom Brady, the guy himself, Ryan Wolf. Hero. We've had a bunch of our heroes on the podcast, but this was our last episode of the year, and I'm so glad we were able to line up Ryan Wolf to come on. What an insightful chat, and just shows how he's one of the best class acts and all-around best players to ever play the game.
Yeah, Captain Canada, the GOAT. This episode got a lot of traction. There was a lot of people interested in what Wolfie had to say, and man, just getting to talk to him about everything on the field, off the field, life, whatever it was just, I was just in awe the whole episode.
You talk about being in awe. Yeah, his whole career we've been in awe of it, and we've been lucky enough to play with him and see firsthand what he brings to the table. Just one of the best. And one of my favorite moments, though, was getting to hear him describe what it was like for him and his family after we won the Pan Am Games in 2015, knowing that he hadn't had that opportunity before. He did in 2007 and chose not to go, thinking that softball was going to be in the Pan Am Games forever. And then it got taken out. So when he got the opportunity to go back one more time and capture this one that he hasn't had, to hear him talk about how special that was is one of my favorite podcast moments that we've had so far. Here it is. Ryan Wolf, 2015 Pan Am Games. Then we fast forward a couple of weeks, and we win the Pan Am Games at home. I'm sure you had a ton of friends and family that got to take in that championship game, that whole experience. And that's when you put the gold medal around your neck and your Team Canada career is done. But you think back to 2 years earlier when you thought your Team Canada career was done, coming back from New Zealand we didn't have that feeling that we had that day. So how special was that to have that medal on your neck? You got the two that you were hoping to get as a player, and then your Team Canada career got capped off the way any ball player, but especially you, could deserve to have it.
Yeah, that one was pretty special. You're right. I had a ton of family and friends. Megan was there, and Emma, Allie, and Garrett were all there. My parents, my brother, sister, brother, they were all there, and to share that moment with them, because they sacrificed so much over the years. That's often goes unnoticed or unmentioned, but the number of weekends through the summer that I, was away traveling, and, the weeks that I left, to go play in ISF tournaments and those type of things, and Megan picking up the pieces and, raising 3 kids, here and taking on all that extra load. So to have them there, to share in that moment and to see your kids, I know you guys are young, young fathers, and to have your kids there and see you perform and see you do well and see what you're passionate about. It was really special. All my kids, we got them, some balls, and they were running around getting autographs. They've got their, signed by everybody on the team. And it was a really special moment to share that with everybody that sort of helped me, in terms of my family and friends, get me there. It was a great way to cap a career, and I've got a picture, and it's one of my favorite pictures. It's me. We were leaving the Pan Am complex, and I think Megan took it, and I've got Garrett and Allie on each side of me, and I'm walking, dragging my ball bag, and my shirt's kind of untucked, but we're sort of walking off, and you can see sort of the sunset in the background. And it was very, just in terms of that moment, it was really captured the moment. I'm sort of walking off into the sunset and got my family alongside. So yeah, it was really cool. Yeah.
That's like a movie, the ending of a movie, man.
Yeah.
Awesome. Just a perfect story, perfect way to go out.
Yeah.
You probably got a ball field named after you too, did you?
No, I don't actually. No.
Oh, perfect. That makes 2 of us.
Yeah.
I remember the episode we did with Opie Fairman. Lolly was talking about the field and named it after him, and Opie was talking about the field. I got a hole in one at the pitching putt on Kenmount Road, and everybody got a fucking picture on the wall. That's a lot of ball field.
Yeah.
Well, folks, we've been involved in a lot of tough games over the years. And after those, we like to debrief with an ice-cold Miller Lite. With its great Pilsner taste and only 90 calories and 3 grams of carbs per serving, after every tough game, it's always Miller time. Please drink responsibly. Well, there you have it, Hilly. Our favorite moments from the first 15 episodes. But yeah, how can you pick just one story from all these things? But, we have Lucas and Nick here, the guys just running the ship behind the scenes, and they've put together a few montages for us of some stories. We talked about it throughout, that there's been a lot of stories that were talked about on multiple episodes. So we're going to put together a bit of a montage, and my favorite one to start this off is hearing you talk about your pitching prowess. It's come up time and time again. And sometimes it drives me nuts. Most of the time it makes me laugh. Our guests seem to like it. Our listeners seem to get a kick out of it. But here it is, your pitching montage.
He listened to everyone, what they were saying too. And he because I like picking pitchers. I was pretty good at it. I learned that from Whitey and Colin and even Sorensen and all these other guys. And then Sean picked up on it too. And he'd start getting in on it and writing all this stuff down. And I tell you, if you know what every pitcher in this league is throwing and you know what every hitter can hit, a lot easier game all of a sudden, right? And not everyone studied that stuff, but he did. He made the game easier for himself.
And good on Obi for doing that. I mean, Robbie, us pitchers out there, we're doing enough. I mean, we shouldn't have to do all the thinking. And all, does somebody else have some input here on the outcome?
I agree, Hilly. Fuck me.
Jesus Christ, we're out there sweating our balls off.
Yeah, all the work, fuck, coming in every day. Fucking.
Oh man, I need to get buddies in this game that aren't pitchers or think they're pitchers because you're friggin' exhausting to listen to.
And you got Todd Martin and you got Sean Cleary and Paul Court. You might have to make one or two plays a game. That's it. Just make a play. It's a ground ball once in a while. Just make a play. Other than that, just sit back and watch a show. Like you said, unreal watching some of these guys pitch and then on top of that, the catchers, Sean O'Brien's and Pat Shannon's, and watching them call the games, that was fun for me too. I'd sit at shortstop and I'd, watch the game they're calling and how they're calling and just unreal. It was just unreal how good some of these players were that I got to play with. I know I'm lucky.
Yeah, now that you mentioned it, I remember that game against the Dutch down in New Zealand there. I'm looking over my shoulder in the circle. You look pretty comfy over there.
Oh, Jesus. Fucking go again, man. You're not a fucking pitcher.
Chuck and duck. Try not to chuck and puke. Worst days of my life.
But the chuck and duck for you pitching against me, Hilly, that kind of continued on into your senior career as well at Lions Park, right?
Yeah, we'll get to it, I'm sure.
I mean, we're not going to talk about you walking the base loaded.
We're going to talk about that.
I don't know if you're going to. I'm not sure if that was in the itinerary or not, right?
We are going to talk about it right friggin' now because it drives me fucking up the wall hearing Hilly talk about all his pitching prowess. And you're not a pitcher, man. You're a designated hitter now, which is anyway. But Hilly, Marty, you'll like this story too. So I think
I was trying to remember. Was that your last at bat? Was that your last game in league here? Was that your last season? Last at bat?
No, it was getting there, but it wasn't my last year.
Oh, okay. Anyway, whatever it was.
So Hilly, you tell the story, man, because it's one of my favorite stories.
We were in league finals. Colin was playing for the Bonefinch. They were called, and we were 3 Cheers Pub. And it was league finals, 4 out of 7. You guys were up. Was it 3-0 or were you up 3-1?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. 3-1, we'll say. And anyway, it was getting late in the game. I think it was 0-0. It was 5th or 6th inning. And I'm pitching, throwing a blinder, mind you.
No doubt.
Yeah.
And then anyway, so this particular inning, I'm pretty sure it was the bottom of the 6th. And they start off with their number 9 batter. And it's whoever it was, I walked him. Then lead off with Saki. I walk Saki. Fucking can't find the zone. Their next batter, Keith Maynard. I walk Keith Maynard, and here comes Abby. So anyway, first pitch, he lets go like he usually does. I don't know why I didn't throw a strike. Next pitch, I said, I'll get him now an outside drop out. Now you hit it opposite field. There's a bit of gas behind it, mind you.
Yes, yeah, a little late. Yeah.
Right? Anyway, off the scoreboard, grand slam. We end up losing the game 4-0. Abby and then those guys win the championship celebration awards. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm walking to the clubhouse after the game like we normally do, having a few beers, season's over. So as I'm walking up over the hill, I just meet my old man. He's just there looking at me, clapping his hands, give me the slow clap when I walk up. I'm still kind of a little bit pissed off. I wanted to keep playing. I'm like, what's going on? Fuck, what's your problem? He said, congratulations. He said, you set a fast pitch record. I'm like, what are you talking about? He said, you're the only pitcher in fast pitch softball history to walk the bases loaded to get the Colin Abbott.
There's only up, down, change. And they're not working for me every night. So so many tricks I got in the bag, right? But It's good. It's tough, man. It's tough.
Well, and it's funny with you two right? Because traveling for the last decade together and playing on Hill United, playing on Galway Hitman, playing on Team Canada, all together. But then Tuesday, Thursday, Sundays down that league going up against each other. And
oh yeah,
well, it's a rivalry, right? And what was it? 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, we were getting ready to go play the ISC, Bradley, and you step in the box. You know, from your perspective, you're probably okay. What happened there?
Yeah, well, I remember as me and Hilly started traveling together a few years before. You know, we were starting to build quite a relationship. You know, as I thought. You know, going down on, I think it was a Thursday night. I believe we were traveling the next day. And I'm here thinking, you know, going into a big tournament, you know, I might see a couple down the middle, get my bat going for the weekend, you know, going into a ring tournament. Nobody. Steps in there about 5 degrees. Right in the fucking ribs. Hilly, do you remember what I said?
I hit him. I struck him, and I knew I was striking him. I hit him on purpose.
No, there's no doubt about that. You couldn't miss me.
And it was literally 5 degrees. You see your breath, and he was walking down first base, just disgusted. He goes, "That fucking sucked."
Well, it was the fucking hardest pitch I've thrown in about 4 years.
Yeah.
And then you catch me at Nationals, you're probably like, fuck, I don't even need shin pads.
Yeah, but the problem with catching for Hilly, I never ever caught it. The ball never reached me. I'm like, fuck, these guys are hitting the shit out of you, man. I think I can catch. I didn't know what it feels like to hit the glove.
Yeah, I was nervous, but you never fucking come out and talk to me. You never come out and told me to let him hit it.
The only time I come out and talk to you is give you the ball back there. Geez, another one.
You never called the high fucking dipper for me.
No, because it wouldn't reach me.
Hilly, what a laugh, man. Hearing you talk about pitching, I love it, buddy. It's awesome.
It's pretty self-explanatory.
Don't ever change, buddy. Keep her going. Keep pitching.
Yeah, that's right.
Keep going.
That's right.
Our next clip, we've heard this story. It started when we talked to Opie Fairman back in his episode, and we gave Bradley Ezekiel an opportunity to give his take on it. But way back when we were youngsters, knee-high to a grasshopper, as they'd say, we had a little bit of a run-in at the Hagersville Arena where things got a little bit out of hand at a tournament, and a little bit of a dust-up happened.
Yeah.
And we gave our take on it. Ian Fairman gave his take, and Bradley got a chance to give his side of things. So here it is, the Hagersville story.
The old hoedown.
Do you remember, I just want to go back a little bit, when we had that tournament out in Jarvis, when me and Hilly and Bradley went back and played for Frankenmuth.
Yeah.
And we went up, and it was the Jarvis tournament, and we were all there playing. We had Cordy pitching for us, and anyway, we end up making championship Sunday, like the semifinals. But that Saturday night, you say, "Hey guys, there's this country dance or something going on at the Hagersville Arena. You guys, you guys should come." Oh, perfect. I think we're 20. I don't know how old we are, 23 maybe.
You would have been early 20s, yeah.
We go out, and they go in, and it's an arena with no ice on it, and you just show a ticket, and it's go pour your own drinks, right? And then it's a dance. Hilly, do you remember going to that?
Quite well.
Yeah, what it was, there was me.
What did I tell you before you went?
Well,
behave.
Whatever you do, don't fight. That's all I said. Just don't get into a fight. I said, all my friends are going to be there. Just have a great time. Just don't get into a fight. No big deal.
Yeah, well, sorry. we went in there with good intentions anyway. But there's me and Hilly and Bradley and Blair Ezekiel. We were in there, and then anyway, the night was winding down, and we come out, me and Hilly, and Bradley's meeting us, and Bradley's real young at this point.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know if he's 20. He's probably 19.
No,
and
Bradley was in diapers, I think.
he said, yeah, Lolly, they're saying, don't tell people around here from your Newfoundland or something like that. Anyway, there was some chirping going on, and next thing you know, like fucking flash mob. There's everybody, there's just bodies flying everywhere, and then next thing you know, everyone's kind of squared off into this into a big old racket. Next thing you know, I'm not sure how many. There's 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 little dust ups. There you go, podcast name drop again. We had to get, at the end of it, we had a van come pull and pick us up with the door sliding open. We're running, diving in the van, peeling out of the parking lot. But anyway, we show up at the ball field the next day, and we wake up, and every one of us, our hands are swollen up. We got freaking black eyes, and we got to roll in to play a 9 a.m. semifinal game where somehow we managed to win that game and then go, I think we won the final. We beat you guys in the final. Yeah. But I remember we played you in the final. I think you guys got the bye right to the final. And we're out warm. You guys are warming up for the championship game. We're out stretching the center field again, and here comes Opie by marching out to the circle. Don't give a shit who's in. He said, "What the fuck did I tell you? I told you nothing."
It was almost like it's like we had our heads down and we seen Opie coming. It was almost like we knew we did bad and we seen Dad for the scolding, right? We were like, "Oh boy, here it comes." Not good. We feel shame.
Yeah, I think we got out of there pretty lucky because you mentioned you had one of your buddies who was a fighter in the NHL or something, and he had just left 10 minutes or so before all this stuff happened, or he wasn't there. He left that day to go back to training camp or something. You said you don't know how freaking lucky you guys were.
You might have had a default there on Sunday.
Yeah.
No, I remember that story because you guys came back. I think you guys came back to my house after that game, and we had a few beers before you guys took off on the plane or whatever. And I remember Bradley because Bradley was he was probably 18 at that time, and I don't think he said one word the whole time. And then after the story. The story came out after, and it was like, well, Bradley kind of started it. I said, Bradley who? Bradley Eskel. I said, Bradley Eskel started that fight? I haven't heard him say a word. Poor little guy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's just one of those, every time we go out that way, I'll say, oh, but is there any chance our pictures are up at the Hagersville Arena or what?
And I'm 22, I got in the IC game the year before in Midland in 2008, and it was actually the year before. Remember, we went to Jarvis for a tournament, and that was actually my first taste of senior ball and getting to get on the road with the boys, and it was actually quite an experience there. And we'll leave it at that.
No, we're not going to leave it at that.
No.
So for any of our listeners out there who may have heard Ian Fairman's episode, we talked about at the end of his episode this tournament in Jarvis, and Opie, he came on, and there was a little dust up there at the Hagersville Arena, and he basically came out and said that you had something to do with starting that. So I think it's only fair to give you a chance. So I'll just from your perspective, what happened? And we don't need to go into all the details, but he called you out on starting that fight. What do you got to say about that?
I can't say a whole lot. I kind of did initiate the first words of the fight. No doubt about that. But, it just happened so quick. We went outside at the end of the night, and we just got talking to these couple guys, and I told them I was from Newfoundland, and I don't know, he kind of said, I don't know, I wouldn't tell people that up here. And then, being drunk, I probably told them right where to go and how to get there. And then with that, the door, it was like the doors opened up and out you came. And I was like, oh, fuck, here we go. Right? So I went over and I said, buddy said this, and then, he knows what happened after that.
Yeah, we cleared the air. We straightened it all up.
Yeah, I was all good by it's, younger days, but it's funny. We're still talking and laughing about that story, 10.
But imagine
10,
me now
years.
Going in first senior tournament. I mean, Scott Stasek had us up there, right? Give me a tryout to come with their team for next year and start a big old fight and all that, But it ended up working out.
It worked out. Oh, geez, did it ever? Well, Hilly, we get the roll out of one little dust-up story, and, it wouldn't be a year in review. It started back with Robbie O'Brien's episode. We talked about it with Dale Levy. When we won in 2013 with the Hill United Chiefs, we got to go on the trip to the Bahamas, and there's a couple of stories. I don't know what to think about them personally, but you know what? It's pretty funny. What do you think? The Bahamas story?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I mean, you put your chips on the table, you roll the dice, you don't know what's going to happen.
Here we go. 2013 Bahamas story.
2013, November, after we won with Hill United, I was single at the time, and the sponsorship group offered to fly everybody and a guest down to the Bahamas to celebrate
Their date. Everyone in their date.
And their date. Yeah. And I it was a weird move on my part, but, and thank you to the team for not calling me out on my shit, but they allowed me to take Robbie O'Brien down there, which when we showed up at the airport, that's hilarious. And the reason I chose Robbie wasn't just because with no thought into it. The reason I wanted to bring you down there was to say thank you for everything that you did for me in my career. And not only on the ball field, but just we became best buddies through that. But in 2006, when you offered to take me into your home and brought me in with Beck and Maddie, and it was a life event that changed things for me. It changed our friendship for sure. And I always wanted to repay you for it. And then just so to get that opportunity, it wasn't just I wanted to take one of my favorite people down the Bahamas. It was that's why I wanted to do it. I just want to clear that up. But that trip.
Well, did you ever?
Holy fuck. It's getting real dusty in here now. Holy Christ.
Hold on. There's a tear coming out. I got to get rid of that fuck. Give me a sip of rum here. But it was a trip of a lifetime. I can remember Dale Levy's face. I still remember Dale Levy's face when we're walking in the air, and everyone has their wives with them and her girlfriends, and you and I are coming down the fucking escalator together, and even Ryan Thompson. They're all like, "What the fuck? How is Obi coming on this trip?" And they come over to me and said, "I don't know how you guys pulled this off either." And they're talking to me and said, "You must have the most understanding wife on the planet, or you got something on her. Like, how the fuck are you on this trip right now?" I said, "Man, my wife loves me." And I said, and Lolly's my boy, man. This is what's happening. Man, holy fuck. What a trip that
I'll
was.
never forget it. I'll never forget seeing you, two of you coming down to Hull. Me and Marsh were walking up to, I don't know what we're doing, get some water or something. And two of you we were on different flights. Two of you guys coming down to Hull with the trolley boy. Got your luggage on the trolley, smiling here from here, your duty-free bags in the other hand, and like the booze stuff. Oh, I'll never forget it.
Oh.
Yeah, that was the best fucking date anyone could have brought.
Oh, man, you're champ.
That was some trip.
We got a couple of stories from that trip too. We got to go out and watch the George St. Pierre fight out on Kenny's yacht.
Kenny's ship. It was a ship.
Yeah, it was a ship. That was unreal. Everyone laid out on the deck with the TV coming up and watching the George St. Pierre fight. And then we went into the casino and we all had a bit of fun there.
And that's not even the best part. The next morning then, so Kenny remember when he rented where he shut down the whole lazy river for us all?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're going to the lazy river and there's a couple tubes that you go in. So it was a couple, me and Lolly, we got to get in the fucking tube together. And so the fucking lifeguard there is shutting down the lazy river for everyone. We're like arms around each other, putting our legs around each other, jumping in the tube, and off we go. And then I was like, holy fuck. That was a trip and a half. And how about Lolly? How about you up on top of the ship with what's his name from Aerosmith?
Stevie Salas. Yeah, he came down too, and I think Shalesy told me that he had something to do with Aerosmith. So I spent 20 minutes trying to see if he wanted to start a band called Lolly Smith. And he had wanted to fuck all to do with me. So that didn't end well with my singing career. But
just talked about the Hill United, the sponsorship and how great they were. And in our very first episode, way back when, we had Robbie on here, Robbie O'Brien, and we talked about after we won our first one, the sponsorship group flew us to the Bahamas and we were allowed to take a guest. I was single at the time and I wanted, I chose Robbie O'Brien to come with me, and he described walking through the airport, and you were the first person he locked eyes with at the gate, and he'll never forget the look on your face. What do you remember about that?
Yeah, well, it was unbelievable to me. I was like, what the is going on here? Like, I thought you had to bring your girlfriend or your wife, right? So, I wasn't unhappy about taking my wife. We had a lovely time, but I was like, what a freaking stud. He pulls this out of the hat and he brings Rob O'Brien. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding? I just couldn't believe it. How did you get away with it? I guess it's +1, right? But
on my end, yeah, it was. I had to explain my reasons why, and yeah, I still to this day, I could only imagine what went through their head when I brought it by them. But you looked at Robbie and said, "How did your wife let you go on this trip?"
Total veteran move, like total veteran.
Yeah, but
I couldn't have been more happy for you. Like it was like.
It was so funny, man. Yeah. It was so funny. I'll never forget it. Like, remember we did that day at the park? We went on the rides with the tubes and all this stuff. While we're all there with our girlfriends and our wives, and we're holding hands. We're coming down, taking pictures. And here comes Robbie and Lolly in this big blow-up tire tube, and they're swishing and swashing, and there's rum going everywhere. Oh man, what a laugh!
Oh yeah. And then after the banquet in the casino. I tell you what, I'll never forget that night, Hilly.
Yeah.
Lolly, I tell you.
Oh man.
Neither will Sal.
No, Sal. There was.
I couldn't believe it. It was you knocking that guy out at that table, and then they drag his ass away.
Yeah.
Like, don't they know who we are, right?
That was. Well, I guess we're getting into that story, Hilly, now. I guess 14 episodes in. Yeah, the one thing that was left out of Robbie O'Brien's episode was when we went down there, this guy was being a belligerent asshole at the table through his drink in the dealer's face. And basically Robbie told him what he thought of it. He said that was a dick move. And this guy was 6'8" in a salmon-colored shirt with an entourage around him. And he decided that he was going to get up and come after me and Robbie, and we were feeling no pain. And Buddy hauled back the swing at us, and anyway,
you committed Superman him right in the fucking chops.
Yeah, there was a couple of smacks thrown, and anyway, we'll end that story there. But he got thrown out, and we got to continue on with our night, and I think it had a lot to do with who brought us down there. And then another story from that. So I was on the phone with Shalesy right before we jumped down with you tonight, and I gave Shalesy a call, and he knew that you were coming on with us tonight. He said, "Ask Red about when we went out golfing that day, and Kenny Hill had the golf course shut down for us, and it said something about you teeing off and hitting it into someone's backyard on the Bahamas golf course, and he told me to ask you about that story."
Yeah. So the girls, I guess, or everybody, the girls went out on the yacht to do some scuba diving or whatever the heck they were doing. We were playing golf. It was a phenomenal golf course. And someone had said that Beyonce's house was on the golf course, right? So here I get up to the tee blocks, and that's Beyonce's house right there. So I was like, well, hey, that's about 350 yards. That's inside my range. So it's amazing. I can't hit the fairway, but I can hit one right in front of her house, right? So I'm walking over towards it to get my ball, and the security guards come out. They got guns and all this crap. And I'm like, oh, they threw the ball back to me. I said, hey, I wanted to play it where it lied. No, sir, you're not.
Not today.
Yeah,
say hi to Beyonce for me, right?
Well, folks, if you've listened to the first 15 episodes, you'll notice that there's cold openings at the beginning of each one. This is one of our favorite parts of the podcast, kind of sets the tone for what's to come. Some are funny, some are insightful. Here's a little montage of our favorite ones so far.
I remember another time Motor was, we're in a tournament where Motor, umpire's making bad calls. I'm like, listen, bud, you got to get your head, like, let's get going here. We need some calls, or we need the corners. Anyway, he finally made a bad call. Motor comes up and says, excuse me. He said, can you throw me out for me telling you what I think? And the umpire says, no. He said, well, I think you're horrible, you're this, you're that, and starts going up and down. He says, you're out of here. The Motor says, I thought you couldn't throw me out. Well, you're out of here. That's just, you can't do that. And he said, by the way, Motor says, your proctologist called me, found your head. Well, the fucking fans went crazy. They lost their mind. That was the funniest thing ever.
In Aurelia, when we played the rainout game and lost. So we play, it comes down in buckets on the Saturday, and we were like, no way we're playing Saturday. So Colin, you and I went to the casino. Yeah. So we ended up spending 12 hours in the casino, which we weren't drinking, so everybody else was. We go on a tour afterwards, pick everybody up, drive back to the hotel. So Butter was full, and the next morning we ended up losing the debate on whether or not we're going to play. We ended up playing Broken Bow in the morning, and there's a little nubber in front of. This is like, I don't know, let's call it 3-2 or 4-3 at the time of the game, whatever, in the 5th or 6th inning. And there's a little nubber in front of Butter, and Butter's playing third base. He runs in to pick it up, and he steps on his own glove and does a somersault right in front of him. He stood on his own glove with his hand in it. And face plants down. And
I'll tell you one game that we used to play, and I could run a little bit playing the sport of fast pitch, and I attest my speed to the game called Bull Nuts. So on the other side of the fence, on the outfield fence at the St. Lawrence Ball Diamond, there was a cow pasture with a bull in it. So if you hit the ball in towards the bull, you tried to get as close as you could, but you had to run and get the ball and then come back over the fence. And Lord loving Jesus, there was a couple of close calls back in the day. But no,
well, how I've known you since 2006. How did I not know about bull nuts until today? Holy!
I tell you what.
Yeah,
I'd be some bunter if I grew up in that town.
As soon as I seen Hilly walk up the door and open the door, I knew exactly what was going to happen. And sure as shit, he pushed the door open, the horn sounds, he jumps, loses it, runs back, and all of a sudden here you see John Hill walking up going, what the fuck are you going on? Let's go.
Oh, man.
I opened the door and I was like, there's a skunk or a possum or something behind that door. I was like, I just squat his foot when I tried to open the door. I couldn't believe it. Then we go in and everything is saran wrapped in tinfoil everywhere. I'd say I was 2 days in the house and I was still sitting on the toilet seats, and then firecrackers were going off under my arms and everything. I was like, this house is not safe. So this guy comes in, he's like, yeah, we got to go. It's like 6 a.m. or like 5:30 a.m. I was like, this is nuts, right? And so I go down, and I'll never forget it. I walk into this room, and because I still at this point didn't think it was real. I was like, someone's setting us up here now for some kind of joke, right? So I remember walking to the room, and then there was like 6 of the boys sitting in chairs drinking water with the same look of disgust on their face that I had. And then over in the corner was big Paul Cowart standing up doing jumping jacks. And I was like, Cordy, what are you doing? He said, they said it helps to make me pee.
Did that drive you nuts pitching in the ISC, not getting to hit? Is there something is it annoying, or is it something that you've come to get used to?
You know what? Like over the years, I've come to get used to, but still, when you're sitting there and you know you want to swing, you fucking drives you bonkers not being able to. But it's not as bad when you got the lineup in front of you like I had like with the Chiefs and stuff like that, right? So like you can't get over it, but it still drives you nuts because you want to get up there and rip her.
Yeah, fuck that. But if I'm pitching and you're telling me I'm not hitting, you better have some good goddamn snacks on that bench. I'll tell you what.
Well, fellas, this has been a pretty fun episode looking back on our first year as a podcast, 15 episodes, Hilly, but none of this happens without the guys you hear at the end of every episode when we got Lucas and Nick here. Well, guess what? We got Lucas and Nick here. And boys, it's been a pleasure getting to do this podcast with you two. You're behind the scenes and you're making us look good without a lot of people knowing it. But we want to hear your take. We got Lucas Hibbs and Nick Giansante here. What has been your guys' take on the podcast for the first 15 episodes?
Thanks, man. Well, yeah, we wanted to start off saying, thank you so much for having us produce a podcast. It's been a blast so far. Just as soon as we started, we were like, this is going to be super fun. And for what it's grown to be, couldn't be happier to be a part of something like this.
It's also awesome because all the veterans that come on here, I think a lot of their advice kind of transcends not just from the sport of softball, but to everything. So speaking of veterans, though, you guys might be veterans of softball, but you weren't so much veterans of the podcast when we first started. So we got a couple clips for you to listen to. Here you go.
And Hilly, here he is, our good buddy. Yep.
Chris.
Such a good buddy. I can't remember his name.
I didn't know
What's his name? What's his name?
I didn't know what exit to take was. Well, get ready, folks. You're probably not going to understand him because he has an accent. No, stupid.
Yeah,
I was firing right back at you.
Buddy there from fucking freshwater Newfoundland.
Welcome back, folks. Episode number 13 of Dust Up with Hilly and Lolly. And Hilly, I'm real excited about our episode tonight. We got fucking assholes hosting this podcast is what we got. Welcome back, folks. Episode... Hey. Well, boys, what's a good year in review episode without a good blooper reel? But Hilly, this has been awesome. Looking back on our first year as a podcast, going through our favorite moments, getting some of the boys back on here. But you know, this doesn't happen by accident. We've had a lot of support in our corner, and just want to take time to put out a few thank yous. Want to thank the boys in Rum Ragged for sharing their hit song Ladies Man for our intro. Want to thank our guests. We've been lucky. Even though they're our friends and our teammates, we're lucky to get the guests on there that we have. It's been awesome. We've had a lot of inspiration out there with some of the other podcasts with Outside the Shoot, Twos Talk, and Beyond the Dugout. It's great to see the softball community coming together, promoting the game, and we want to thank our listeners. What's special about this is we get to put it out there, get the feedback, and know that this is out there for people who love the game of fast pitch. That's how this whole thing came about, was us wanting to talk softball, share it with the softball community. And I want to thank two of the guys you just heard from, Lucas Hibbs and Nick Giansante. What you guys do producing this podcast, man, there wouldn't be a Dust Up with Hilly and Lolly without both you guys. Thanks for everything you do. And here's to a great 2022. And last but not least, I got to thank him over there. Hilly, almost a year ago, I sent you the text saying, do you want to start a podcast? And I think it took you off guard, but 2 months later, we had our first episode coming out, buddy. It's been awesome getting to do this with you. I look forward to jumping on, bringing on our friends and guests and talking through all this. And it's been awesome, man. I can't wait to see what we got coming in store for 2022.
Yeah, so I guess I just thank you for twisting my arm to actually do this. And, a couple of my favorite things to do are talk ball and have a laugh. And to be able to do that with yourself and the boys and all the guests that we've had so far and our future guests going into 2022, it's been a pleasure, buddy. And I look forward to seeing what we can drum up.
That's awesome, man. Well, we want to take this time to wish all of our listeners out there a Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and we look forward to 2022. And we got Lucas and Nick here and a little bit of Rum Ragged to take us out.
Ladies man, but I'm a man now. For courting 6 girls all at once they used me. Bye-bye baseball! Me mother said it was naughty, I should kiss her back. But I said if it's naughty, sure it's also very